every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
Affects us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock on Friday, the 26th of April. Today, tensions high in Scotland as Humza Yousaf faces a vote of no confidence after ripping up his coalition agreement with the Greens.
A poll of GB News viewers has revealed that Labour are 11 points ahead of the Conservatives, another worrying sign for the Prime Minister.
The disgraced mogul behind the Me Too movement, Harvey Weinstein, has his 2020 conviction overturned.
A revolutionary new jab is bringing hope of a possible cure to skin cancer as it begins trials in the UK.
And Prince William surprised his students in the West Midlands during a school trip to support mental health, revealing his favourite dad joke along the way.
Knock knock.
Is this
Interrupting cow. Moo.
Manchester City are on Arsenal's tail and can smell blood as they beat Brighton 4-0, still with the game in hand. All is not well at Red Bull as the chief car designer resigns, and Olympic swimmers are likely to sue WADA over what was said by USADA due to announcement by Tsunada.
Good morning. It's a cloudy start today, but will there be any more sunshine over the weekend? Well, you can find out all the details with me a little later on.
Morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Good morning to you. You like a drink, don't you?
I do. Not whilst I'm working.
No.
But yes,
have you got a favourite tipple?
Gin or red wine.
Oh, you see, we need a beer drinker. Paul Coit, are you a beer drinker?
Yeah, of course I'm a beer drinker.
Yeah.
Of course I do sport, don't I? Of course I'm a beer drinker.
Right, because
what would make you think such a thing?
Because they've introduced this new beer, they're brewing this new beer, which is the equivalent of what they used to drink 5,000 years ago.
Oh, it's like a mead.
So a sort of a mead thing, yeah, and it's made with honey and all this sort of stuff. And you can buy it now in cans.
Oh, really?
Sounds quite nice.
Why would you think, though, automatically I'm a beer drinker? What would it be that...
You're such a lad.
Because I'm such a lad.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
There you go.
I'm talking about football.
Would you have a pint of that, though?
Well, I would. Have you got some with you, then?
No, but it'd be quite sweet, you'd think.
Yeah. I don't even know what... Ellie, do you know what mead is? Because it's always like, whenever they talk about old beer, they go, oh, it's a mead.
Well,
I
it
have no idea.
sounds... Yeah. No, I don't know what a mead is.
I don't know.
It's like hops.
Yeah, hops, mead, all that beery business.
I'm going to look that up.
Yes.
They make it from spelt.
Yes.
Fermenting honey and water together.
Are you a lager man? Are you lager man? Cold lager beer? A lager and lime?
Lager and lime.
My dad always used to have a lager and lime.
Yeah.
Loved a lager and lime.
That sounds quite nice.
Yeah.
Would you have a
Or a
zero...
lager top.
Lager top.
Zero alcoholic mead
Yes.
with honey?
Yeah.
No.
Honey might mess me up a little bit. I love honey, but it's not
That was always big. That zero alcoholic mead was always big for people that would drink drive on their carriages back in the 1500s.
That's it.
So that's what they used to have.
Made it very popular.
That's what they used to have. Yeah.
Lovely. Paul, right, we'll see if we can get some cans in.
Well, let's have a nice morning, shall we?
We should do a taster.
Lovely. Paul, we'll see you later on.
Thank you.
Should we go to Scotland now, where tensions are simmering after the Greens revealed they plan to vote against the First Minister, Humza Yousaf, in a vote of no confidence?
Yes, the decision follows the collapse of the SNP's power-sharing deals with the Greens yesterday, leaving Mr Yousaf in charge of a minority government.
Well, the no-confidence motion proposed by Scottish Conservative leader Douglas Ross, who branded the SNP leader weak and a failed First Minister.
Ooh, well, joining us now is GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. Good to see you this morning, Olivia. And will Humza Yousaf survive this, do you think?
Well, he is just clinging on by the tips of his fingers. And incredibly, the decision, the kingmaker in all of this, is a woman called Ash Regan. Now, Ash Regan, for those of you who don't know, was an SNP MP. She went up against Humza Yousaf in the leadership election. They had a big falling out over trans rights. Ash Regan is of the J.K. Rowling mindset and was worried about the erosion of women's rights. In the end, she defected from the SNP and joined ALBA, which is Alex Salmond's nationalist breakaway party. When she went, Humza Yousaf said that she was no great loss to the SNP. But she now has a very important position, and I expect he's wishing he didn't say that. She is the only ALBA MP. She's the only other nationalist MSP in Holyrood. And because the SNP is one seat short of a majority in Holyrood, we've got to assume that the whole of the SNP will vote for confidence in Humza Yousaf. Everything now rests on what Ash Regan decides to do. If she votes to keep Humza Yousaf in, then he can cling on to his job. But if she decides to vote no confidence in him, then his position becomes completely untenable and he has to go. There are those who are saying that even if he manages to win this vote of no confidence, his position is still untenable. Next time there is a vote in Holyrood, which will presumably be quite soon, the Conservatives, Labour and now the Greens, the SNP's former coalition partners, will all vote against the SNP. The SNP will lose vote after vote and it will become impossible for Humza Yousaf to keep his job. So either way, it seems as though he made a pretty major miscalculation in ending that coalition relationship with the Greens. I don't think he quite understood the strength of feeling from the Greens. But for now, his future rests in the hands of a woman who he said it was no loss losing her from the SNP. Let's see how that plays out.
Did he have much of a choice, though? I mean, the Greens were talking about leaving anyway, weren't they? Didn't he just beat them to it?
I mean, he did. It was a sort of a bit of a question of the tail was wagging the dog in this SNP Green coalition. The SNP obviously had far more seats in Holyrood than the Green Party did. And actually, as I say, the SNP was only one seat short of a majority. And yet somehow the Green Party seemed to be sort of setting the agenda for the SNP. And again, tensions were coming out. There were all sorts of bills. For example, Humza Yousaf dropping that net zero commitment obviously really angered the Greens. And so it was a marriage made in hell, really, between the two parties. And Humza Yousaf you could argue, had no choice. The Greens may have jumped anyway, but the way he handled the situation seems to have inflamed things perhaps more than was necessary. And there are lots and lots of people in Scotland at the moment saying that Humza Yousaf just hasn't really been a very good politician. That said, he has been dealt a very, very poor hand. He came in to be the Nicola Sturgeon continuity candidate, and obviously, as we've seen in the last 6 months or so, being the Nicola Sturgeon continuity candidate might not be the best position in the world right now. Now, her husband has been re-arrested. She very much is under a cloud of suspicion now. So Humza Yousaf was dealt a bad hand, but he seems to have played it quite badly.
OK, Olivia, whilst we've got you, wanted to ask you about the new GB News poll, which suggests that Labour are 11 points ahead of the Conservatives when it comes to GB News viewers' voting intentions.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, that's pretty worrying for the Prime Minister. We have seen worse polls. Often the Labour is more like 20 points ahead in the polls. But the fact that audiences like ours, who sometimes tend to be a bit more sympathetic to the sort of Conservative cause, are now much keener on the idea of a Labour government. The same is true, by the way, of Telegraph readers. Daily Telegraph readers would now like to see a Labour government. Perhaps will show the Prime Minister that, you know, things are really coming to an end, unless he can do something pretty drastic pretty soon. Of course, what he is hoping is that he can pull a rabbit out of the hat with some deportations to Rwanda. That bill has now received royal assent. The flight should be taking off soon. And Rishi Sunak is hoping that that will give him the boost that he really, really needs before those local elections next week. If the local elections go a bit better than expected, then he has a bit more breathing room, and perhaps he can hope to see a bit of an uptick in the polls. At the same time, Rishi Sunak will be hoping inflation will continue to go down, interest rates will hopefully go down, people's mortgages will start to look a bit more rosy, and maybe, just maybe, in 6 months' time, he'll be in a better position than he is now. That seems to be what he's banking on when he decides to go for an election in the second half of this year rather than a summer election.
This is great news for Keir Starmer, though, because when you look at some of the questions here, I mean, it almost seems like Labour Party policy. 72% of GB News viewers think the government isn't tough enough on crime. 66% of GB News viewers think the government should spend more on the NHS. 3/4 think immigration is too high, but 49% think the UK should stay in the ECHR.
Yeah, it's a fascinating mix of questions there. And as we've seen time and time again, what seems to be happening is Labour is stealing the Tories' clothes on issues like immigration, on issues like crime, on issues like defence. These are things which the Conservatives naturally are stronger on. Normally we see Labour kind of winning on issues about healthcare. Labour is often thought to be more trusted with the NHS. But on issues like defence, immigration, crime, those should be real Tory winners, but at the moment they are not. And Keir Starmer is very deliberately trying to take that centre ground. In the last 3 or 4 years since he first became Labour leader, that his shadow cabinet has become pretty much unrecognisable. When he started, it was the sort of left-wingers in the model of Jeremy Corbyn. Now he has a shadow cabinet full of Blairites, and that is because he wants to get that centre ground. He wants to steal the Tories' clothes on these issues like crime, like immigration, like defence. Will it work out? Well, I think it probably will. But Rishi Sunak is just hoping for that little bit of breathing space over the next 6 months after the local elections.
OK, Olivia Utley, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
I'm just thinking, I was going to say, let's have a poll on Twitter, but actually we don't need to do that now.
Oh, no, we don't, do we?
No, with gbnews.com/yoursay. Why, if you're on there, get on there, log in.
I'm doing it right now.
Right, all you have to do is just send a message saying Sunak or Starmer. One of the two. So who you'd like to be Prime Minister after the next election.
Full of the creative ideas this morning.
I am.
Yes.
So there you go, Sunak or Starmer. Just put one word in and just give us an idea of it. And then this is completely unfiltered.
Well, Kirsty Cat says, guessing reform are no good. I'm voting them. Screw the big two.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking in terms of who would be Prime Minister, because it's not likely that Richard Tice will become Prime Minister.
We'll get seats,
or Nigel Farage, if he were to stand either. They're not going to win. They're going to have the impact, but not enough to become Prime Minister. So I'm just thinking of those two, who are one of them is going to be Prime Minister. Which one do you want to see?
Yeah, keep them coming in, and we'll keep a close eye on that, won't we, throughout the programme.
Yeah.
Now, in a landmark legal ruling, disgraced Hollywood film producer Harvey Weinstein has had his 2020 New York rape conviction overturned due to a crucial mistake made by the trial judge.
Yeah, the court found he didn't get a fair trial after the judge called witnesses whose accusations were not part of the case against him. Mr. Weinstein found guilty of raping and sexually assaulting 2 women, but is now entitled to a retrial.
Well, Weinstein will remain in prison, though, after being convicted of a separate rape in Los Angeles. But the expected retrial of his New York case could mean victims are reliving the saga all over again.
Let's talk to showbiz reporter Stephanie Tecci.
Yeah.
I mean, this is frankly extraordinary.
It is, and it's very much a big blow to victims of sexual assault and also the victims who bravely stood and took part in the court cases. You know, for many of these women coming forward and telling their stories of, you know, allegedly being assaulted by Harvey Weinstein was not an easy task for them. So even women, including Ashley Judge, an actress, she's come out now and she said this is an act of institutional betrayal. Because what it was, when Harvey Weinstein was sentenced in 2020, many people saw that as actually a victory for the Me Too movement. You know, finally he's been locked away. He's not going to be a free man, so he's still already in prison, serving another sentence for 16 years. But the fact that now this has been overturned, actually, it's said to a lot of women, actually, your stories don't matter, even if you're going to court to talk about it. With Harvey Weinstein, in his defence, his team are quite happy with this verdict because it means actually he can actually now go on trial and have his say. Because during the trial, he didn't really get a chance to say his side of the story. So now if there is going to be a retrial, he will get to say what happened in these kind of situations that he's been accused of.
I mean, but for a retrial, if we see one in New York, for the victims, that's going to be very difficult, isn't it? Having to rehash everything that they say they've been through.
It is, and I think a lot of them have lost faith in the system because, you know, you've convicted this man for 23 years. Many people were celebrating because they thought this is the situation over, he's been locked away. But now you've got the highest court in New York coming out saying, actually, we've made an error in such a very delicate case like that. I think a lot of victims have now lost support and hope in the system. But you know, from what's come out, the statements that have come out from the courts, they say they do still want to honour victims, but the law is the law. Even someone like Harvey Weinstein, the public already have made their opinion about him, but he is entitled to a fair trial.
But this is the problem. If they've said this isn't a fair trial, and as you say, the public have got their view on it all, how does he then get it? It's going to be a retrial. How is that going to be fair?
Well, this is why they've kind of shot themselves in the foot here, because it was very a tight verdict. It was 4-3 in order to have this court ruling to be brought back to trial. But the problem is now people know Harvey Weinstein's story, and I think a lot of juries, even if you got them from all over the world, they've already made up their minds. So for someone like Harvey Weinstein, it's going to be very hard to give him a fair trial. The only victory, I think, for Harvey Weinstein here is that he's going to manage to say his side of the story. But it means as well less victims. If there is a retrial, there'll be less victims who will be able to come forward because none of their stories have been stood up in a court of evidence. So it's going to be quite hard.
That it is. Stephanie Tecci, good to
Thank
see
you
this
so
morning.
much.
Thank you very much indeed.
Right, it's 16 minutes past 6. Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
And the world's first personalised mRNA jab for melanoma is being trialled with British patients, where it's hoped the jab will stop lung, bladder and kidney cancer. The cancer jab has been described as a game changer and is custom built for each person in just a few weeks.
I had any fear because by doing the trial, I feel like I'm actively doing something to give it a kicking, basically.
A 13-year-old girl has been charged with 3 counts of attempted murder after 2 teachers and a pupil were stabbed at Avon Valley School in Wales on Wednesday. The teachers and pupil have been released from hospital after being treated for stab wounds.
Vice-chancellors from 24 leading universities have been warned by MI5 that foreign states are targeting British institutions to undermine national security. The government and security services are worried that cutting-edge research could be targeted by foreign states to boost their own militaries and economies.
And in the United States, the Supreme Court has been hearing arguments on whether former presidents are immune from criminal trial, federal trial. It follows Donald Trump's dozens of charges across 4 cases, including the hush money trial that's underway now. Supreme Court justices set to hand down their judgments in several weeks, which of course will also set a precedent for future presidents.
Now, MPs have warned that any failure in the process of moving people to universal credit from older so-called legacy benefits could lead to real-world misery for thousands.
Yeah, the Department for Work and Pensions must ensure it helps claimants, some of whom are vulnerable, to switch and not lose their benefits.
Well, the DWP has insisted that benefits are only ever stopped as a last resort after multiple unsuccessful attempts to engage with someone.
Let's talk to former advisor to the Bank of England, Dr. Roger Gewell, who's here. Good to see you, Roger.
Good morning.
How concerning is this, or is this just picking up on a potential sort of problem that hasn't really happened yet?
I think it's a real problem. It affects, fortunately, not a huge number of people. There's about 2.2 million people on the 6 different legacy benefits, and they want to move about, well, less than half, about 900,000 of them to a universal credit. And it really isn't working. As I read the reports and the intel, I kind of wonder if these are the folks who've designed the Rwanda plan. I mean, it's just a litany of unbelievable government, civil service, absolute mess-up failures. So, for example, 21% of people have not transferred from the legacy benefits to the universal credit, and they've had their benefits stopped. So that 21% is just a tad higher than the 3% that the DWP estimated would be the case. Secondly, they also don't fully understand, they say, why the people are not claiming after receiving a notice to migrate. They, quote, lack the data to ensure people are claiming the benefits they're entitled to. I mean, it's unbelievable. My first question is, why don't they just pay them? Why do they actually have to apply? A lot of these are elderly, vulnerable people down on their luck, you know. I mean, why make them suffer through that? And they are cutting people off who haven't applied. Thirdly, it will cost, surprise, surprise, £900 million more and take 6 years longer than they estimated to do this.
Why?
Largely due to the government's decision, quote, to delay moving income-related employment and support allowance claimants to universal credit. Why they delayed it, I don't know. I can't answer that. I've read several different reasons, but none of them really make sense. The DWP's evidence on the long-term impact is limited, as its evaluations have only considered the short-term effects.
I mean, Roger, you're listing all of that out there. It makes you question, is this a system that's even fit for purpose? I mean, surely claimants shouldn't be facing real-world misery over universal credit claimants.
I mean, even if it was only 3% of 900,000 people, that's a lot of tens of thousands of families suffering. And if it's 21%, it's frightening. And no, it's obviously not fit for purpose. They don't have the data. They can't explain why it's not working, why it costs more, why it takes longer. And as I say, I'd like an answer to the question, why can't, you know, we all got, during the pandemic, we all received checks and things. We got our fuel 67-pound payments. Why do they make people apply, and if they don't apply, cut them off? There's just something that's very wrong here.
It seems like it's as much as anything else, a data issue, which is what we have with migration and legal and illegal migration.
And excuse me, so many other things.
Yeah. So what is wrong with the systems in government that you know, they cannot provide the data. In 2024, you think it'd all be on some server somewhere?
I interviewed Nigel Farage a long time ago, well, 8 months ago, about why we have such poor leadership. And if you Google my surname and Farage, you can see the video, and it's quite interesting, his answers. But there is a new AI, artificial intelligence app called Perplexity, which has just become very popular and which was recommended by Arianna Huffington, the founder of the HuffPost. And it's really quite good. And I asked it yesterday, why are politicians so poor? Why does all this happen? And it said basically in 4 different ways that they may be very intelligent and capable in their own right, but they have to dumb things down to get and stay elected, because that's what the populace doesn't want, nuanced explanations. I found that really quite interesting.
Yeah, yeah, Luminek. Roger, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed. Loads of you getting in touch on the question about who you would want to be Prime Minister. Sasha's already... Stephen's asking the wrong question, because the majority of Conservative voters don't want Sunak. The choice should have been broader. It's a reality choice. The reality is it is either going to be Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer who is Prime Minister after the next election. Yeah. Won't be anybody else. You know, that's the reality of the situation. So thanks to all of you who've said Farage or Mordaunt or whatever, but it's not going to be.
Most are saying Sunak, isn't that fair to say?
Sunak. I've only seen one saying Keir Starmer.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
A lot of you saying neither, just neither, which obviously is not the reality, but it doesn't actually bode well, does it, if nobody wants either?
But if you're saying neither, does that mean you won't be going out to vote on election day?
Point.
Because I think that could be the case for many people who just decide to stay at home, not vote for anybody. Do let us know if that's going to be the case.
I mean, Karen says Sunak is appalling, but Starmer is worse. So she's voting Reform. I mean, it's not a happy state of affairs, is it?
It's not, no. It's not going to be 1997 in the sense that there's not the excitement, is there?
No.
That we saw for Tony Blair. Let us know what you think. Keep those views coming in. gbnews.com/yoursay.
Right, let's see what the weather's going to do for you today with Annie.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another fairly cloudy and rather cool day, and there's a few showers around for some. But for the time being, should stay fairly dry and bright through the rest of the morning, particularly across north and western areas of the country. Clouds going to bubble up though as we head towards lunchtime, and the risk of showers starts to develop. Though I think many areas across the north should stay fairly dry. Now towards the south, we start to see cloud thicken through this afternoon across many areas of Wales, into parts of the Midlands and across the south coast ahead of this showery band of rain that will push up northwards throughout tonight. And temperatures will be well below average for the time of year. So another fairly cool day today. Cloud will tend to fade away across northern areas through this evening, so it will be a clear and dry night once again across many areas of northern England, Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, and there is a risk of a further frost for Saturday morning. Across the south, though, cloud will continue to thicken as this band of showery rain continues to move northwards, but that will introduce some milder air, so it's not going to be quite as cold across southern areas of England and Wales through this evening. Now, it will be a bright but cold start across the north on Saturday. The best of the sunshine is likely to be in the morning. I think as you head towards the afternoon, cloud will bubble up once again, and there's a risk of a few showers, but again, most areas should stay dry. Across the Midlands, though, cloud will really thicken. It's going to be quite a dull afternoon, and temperatures will be suppressed. And in the south, any brighter spells that develop could pep off a few showers.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now it's the final day to see how your next holiday could be on us, with your chance to win a Greek cruise for two, £10,000 in cash and luxury travel gifts. That's my tummy, sorry.
It's very loud this morning. You've not had any breakfast, have you? Hello. Anyway, it's a prize worth more than 20 grand, and it could all be yours. Here are the details.
It's the final day to see how you could win our biggest prize so far. With thanks to Variety Cruises, a family company sailing since 1942, you have the chance to win a £10,000 7-night small boat cruise for two. With flights, meals, excursions and drinks included, your next holiday could be on us. Plus, you'll also win £10,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer sizzle. And we'll pack you off with these luxury travel gifts. Hurry, as lines close today. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. today. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, best of luck to you. Now, still to come, the Prince of Wales surprised students in the West Midlands. And they had a comedy routine as well. We'll show you it all in just a couple of minutes.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from Thursday, the 2nd of May,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections.
We'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from Thursday, the 2nd of May at midnight on GB News.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people. To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, the Prince of Wales shocked 1,200 pupils yesterday when he made a surprise visit to a high school in the West Midlands.
Yes, this was after 12-year-old Freddie Hadley from Sandwell wrote a letter to Prince William inviting him to see his school's mental health campaign. Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker was there.
It's not every day you're pulled out of class to meet a prince, but for St Michael's High School students yesterday, that's exactly what happened.
When did you find out he was coming to your school?
Like 10 minutes ago.
Bit of a shock.
Yes.
We just can't believe that someone so important has turned up to the West Midlands to see, 1,200 children. They would never get this opportunity again, and we're just a little bit shell-shocked that somebody so famous has turned up today.
Prince William's visits to the West Midlands was sparked last October when 12-year-old Freddie Hadley invited him to come and learn about the school's mental health campaign. Freddie's letter was posted on X, and to his surprise, William personally tweeted back on World Mental Health Day. He apologised for not being able to visit, but asked pupils to keep up their important work. Fast forward to yesterday, and Freddie got his wish.
Seeing him walking down, I was like, I cannot wrap my head around this. It was like a good thing I didn't get told, because obviously it wouldn't be such as a big surprise, but when I seen him, I was like, gosh, this is like once in a lifetime chance for sure.
The pair sat down for the all-male Matrix project, which runs the Am I Manly Enough campaign, tackling the stigma around male mental health. William said he realised his passions to solve homelessness and addiction were both connected to mental health problems, which is why he's committed to solving that too. He said boys and men need to talk more about their feelings.
The suicide rate in young men is just terrifying, and I wanted to do something about it.
The group broadcasts a local radio show with fun segments which William was all too happy to take part in.
I've been asked to produce a dad joke, so I'm kind of trying to channel Jack Whitehall, because most of the jokes are pretty dad-like. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow. No. That's what I hear a lot at home at the moment.
In a bizarre turn of events, comedian Jack Whitehall was happy with his royal badge of honour, tweeting, "Rinsed by the future king." The Prince of Wales spent time shaking hands with as many pupils as possible before he left. He was impressed by St Michael's whole school approach to mental health. It's understood these pupils are more inclined to open up about their feelings, successfully breaking down stigmas and paving the way for happier and healthier futures. Cameron Walker, GB News.
Oh,
Really
I love
nice.
that. Isn't that lovely?
You're a fan of Freddie,
I think
aren't you?
Freddie's so cute. So cute. And I think Prince William is so funny as well.
Yeah, it's just really nice.
They've got sense of humour running through that family. King Charles is the same.
Yeah, and the Queen apparently had a really good sense of humour. Queen Elizabeth, that is.
Yeah, I like it. Tickles me.
There you go. There you go. Paul Coyte's here. Good morning.
I stood opposite the Queen once, and it was the most embarrassing moment of my entire life.
Oh, no, why?
The current Queen or the previous Queen?
It was the previous Queen.
Yeah.
And it was when, I mean, you worked in local radio as well,
Yes.
and you used to do road shows, do you remember? And it was the East of England show, and I'm standing on this stage, and the Queen came past on standing on the top of a Jeep, you know, doing the wave, and I realised that the height I was at was at the same height as her, so we were almost face to face, and I didn't really know whether to smile or to do it, and I went like this.
A bit like Freddie.
And that was it. So that was it. And even now, I think, oh my goodness, what are you supposed to do? That?
I don't know.
At a distance, salute.
Were you starstruck?
Oh, I was just like that. I was completely, I couldn't.
Oh, great story though.
Yeah. Well,
wanted to tell the kids.
And apparently, she used to tell the same story in royal circles.
I'll tell you what, your road shows were better than ours. We had Take That one year.
Yeah.
Don't not take that.
No, well, they were very good. It's when they were at the height of their fame.
That was probably the same time as we did. It was probably down the road. Yeah.
So we had Take That. We had Dale Winton one year.
Oh, hello, yeah.
And we had Peter Andre.
Did you?
Yeah. Peter Andre.
Of
Whatever
this
happened to
parish.
Peter Andre?
I don't know.
I don't know. Any ideas?
There's nothing. He's great. He's on paternity leave.
I've never heard of him
Just
since.
had his... How many kids has he got now? 5.
Wow.
5 children.
And he was a kid himself in those days.
He was, yeah.
So, team Man City.
Yes, you better add.
Very good. 4-0, beat Brighton last night. So Manchester City are doing what they do, and that's, towards the end of the season, winning football matches. Simple as that. So they were very good. They looked a little tired. I thought they looked a little leggy, in fact, at the weekend when they played Chelsea in the semi-final. But they were fresh, they were composed, they were clinical, they scored 4 goals. And they're now within 1 point of Arsenal with a game in hand. So Arsenal are still top with 77. Manchester City played 1 game less with 76 points. And then we've got Liverpool on 74. And then over the weekend, so tomorrow, West Ham are playing Liverpool, and Jurgen Klopp always unhappy about the lunchtime kickoff. You can't bring up lunchtime kickoffs or even make a joke about it because he will snap. Oh, he gets so testy about the whole thing, for crying out loud.
Why, did he miss his lunch?
Well, I think it might be, and it's like, oh, it's not fair that we play early. And Wayne Rooney was on TV just the other day, and he was talking about it and said, just get on with it. That's the job. Get on with it. And I thought, well done, Wayne. So Sunday, Man City away at Forest, Arsenal, Spurs, Sunday afternoon.
Yes,
I'm
looking forward to
we're all
that.
feeling a little nervous about.
We've heard from Arnie Slot.
Oh, we have our friend Arne. I still don't have a ruling on Arne or Arnie.
I'd say Arne.
Arne Slot. There's Arne. He has now said, because he is the final manager and Liverpool seem to be interested in him, he has now said, and you don't get managers that say this when they're another job, because usually they go, well, you know, I'm very happy where I am. But he said, it seems clear to me that... What a strange thing to say. It seems clear to me that I would like to work there.
Yeah, that's very odd, isn't it?
It is odd.
Would you say that there's something more concrete
I think
in the mix
probably
here?
is. What, in the concrete mix?
In the concrete mix.
I think there is.
Could it be solidifying?
All I can say is that the clubs are in negotiations and I'm in the waiting room in negotiations. So so it looks like it's going to happen. But they're going to have to pay, Liverpool will have to pay Feyenoord some sort of compensation. But really, managers are as important, if not more important, than some players. So maybe we'll get to the point where there'll be transfer fees for managers. It makes sense.
You never know.
Something to think about in the future, maybe.
I mean, honestly, what a time Red Bull's having at the minute.
I know.
But I mean, they're doing all right on the track, obviously, but
they are.
But it's just sort of in the head offices.
Yep.
More trouble.
It's away from the track. Well, the Christian Horner thing won't go away. That happened in February when he was accused of sexual harassment and coercive behaviour. Now, it seemed it all gone away, but within Red Bull, it certainly hasn't. Now, design chief Adrian Newey. He is the genius that is probably behind, that's him on the left there with Christian Horner, behind, I think it's safe to say, the success, because he's the man that designs the cars, and the cars are winning and beating everybody. So he's not happy and has decided that he wants to step away. He's been called the greatest designer in history when it comes to cars, so that's someone they don't want to lose. So again, it looks like it's part of this power struggle. You've got Horner, who's in dispute with Helmut Marko, who was the motorsport advisor. You've got Chalam Uvidra, who runs the whole thing. He seems to be also at odds with Horner, but who is it and Horner seems to be staying there, but it seems other people who may be more important, or are they, are stepping away. So it's a whole heap of trouble. And also, if you're another team, you're going to be wanting to take him in because he's the best designer, and then you'd think that maybe there's another big transfer fee. So he's going to be able to name his price if anybody wants him.
Yeah, you'll just have to quickly tell us what's going on with Wada, USADA and Trinidad.
Oh, my goodness me. How long have I got? About 20 seconds? I'm going to have to do this really quickly.
Yeah.
WADA, the World Doping Agency, this is to do with the Chinese swimmers. There's 23 of them, and they tested positive back in 2021 for trimetazepam, which turns out is a heart medicine that was taken by Valieva, who was the ice skater. So anyway, they've tested positive for that. WADA said, after they were tested by Chinada, who were the Chinese agency against drugs, who then said, that's OK. It was in contaminated food. WADA said that's OK. USADA, who are the Americans, have said, well, that can't be on. You can't be continuing to swim when you've tested positive. So now you've got swimmers who want to sue WADA, and WADA are in conflict with USADA. How about that?
I think you did a very good job
Does that make any
of that.
sense whatsoever?
So all the contaminated food.
Yeah, right.
Have they all been eating strawberry cheesecake or whatever?
It is. That's what happened with Valieva. Oh, it was in the food, but how can you have this drug in a kitchen? It just happens to be there. So anyway, this is going to run and run because 7 of the swimmers got Olympic medals. And we don't like the smell of what's going on there.
All right. Paul, we'll see you later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to lay down now.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, we're going to be going through all of the newspapers with Nigel Nelson and Claire Pearsall. That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Bedfordshire on the A5, there's a lane closed in both directions, just off junction 11A of the M1, north of Dunstable. It's for emergency barrier repairs. Train services in Surrey are suspended between Woking and Byfleet and Newhall, where overnight engineering works have overrun. The M26 from Kent into Surrey is closed clockwise from junction 5 for the M26 to 6 at Godstone, where overnight roadworks have overrun. There are queues for around 2 miles back along the M25 and along the A21, and there are delays on the A25 each way just off the A21, and the M26 is closed westbound from junction 2A at Rootham to junction 5 of the M25 with queues towards there too. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
6:43, let's have a look at some of the newspapers for you this morning.
Yes, and the Telegraph reports that the threat of Rwanda deportations is causing an influx of migrants from the UK into the Republic of Ireland.
The Guardian leads on Scotland's First Minister facing a no-confidence motion backed by the Scottish Greens.
The Times leads with MI5 vetting academics to curb threats from China.
The Express reports a new cancer vaccine being tested on British patients, offering hope for a cure.
And the Daily Mail says that thieves attack shops over 1,000 times a day.
All right, let's go through some of those stories then with our senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson, and former government advisor, Claire Pearsall. Good to see you both this morning.
Morning.
Right, let's kick off with the Telegraph, Nigel. So many people say Rwanda doesn't work as a deterrent. It's not started yet, and apparently everyone's fleeing to Ireland.
Well, that's according to the Deputy Prime Minister over there, Michael Martin. Question really is if he's trying to actually shift the blame somewhere else for the problems that his own country is facing. That Ireland has got a record number of migrants coming in, 140,000. That's a 16-year high. It just seems a bit weird that with Rwanda not actually happening, we don't know if it'll be a deterrent or not. And already boat crossings so far this year are a third more than this time last year, which would suggest that the migrants who are crossing the Channel haven't yet been put off by Rwanda. Maybe
they're trying to beat Rwanda.
Well, they can't beat Rwanda because the moment they get here...
well, they can if they disappear into the system.
Well, you could, but they're declared... Although it's not illegal to cross the Channel, they're declared inadmissible when they get here. And there's this backlog at the moment of about 40,000 people who were caught by the Illegal Migration Act who can't leave the country and can't stay either. So these people would be eligible for Rwanda if they turn up. As you say, they can always disappear into the black economy or something like that, but much more difficult because the authorities actually have got hold of them.
Mm. But it is a kind of inevitability that this would happen, given that if they cannot remain in the United Kingdom, they are going to enter Ireland across a non-existent border from north to south. I mean, it is that open border that the EU wanted, that the Windsor Framework is set up to provide. So there was a slight sense of inevitability that this was always going to happen. And I believe it was one of the things that came up when illegal migration was spoken about a few years ago, that you have the common travel area, you have this problem of no border between north and south, and what was going to happen about that. And nobody seems to have the answer. And I think this is one of those issues that we are going to have to face as a nation and also as an international community, that there will always be these kind of routes that people will use to get around something. So the minute you change a business model for the people smugglers by saying no one's going to be admissible to the United Kingdom, they're going to go to Rwanda, then they're going to find other ways. So we need to actually come up with a much better way of looking at international migration rather than just these stopgap things that may or may not work. And in the case of Rwanda, there really isn't a deterrent factor at the moment because no flight currently is gone there.
No, but do we...
And there'll only be a few hundred people.
I hate to sound very... incredibly selfish, but do we care if people are travelling through, leaving Britain to go to Ireland?
Well, I think if you're Irish, you probably
Well, yeah,
care.
we're not Irish, are we? That's the point.
But I think we all need to care, because what happens when there's a problem, what happens if civil unrest occurs, all of these knock-on effects have a massive impact on the rest of us, and you don't know what the unintended consequences of a lot of people passing through and going into Ireland, and you may say, fine, that's their problem, not ours.
And a clampdown in Ireland would mean that they might well come back here again. It might just be a sort of circular route. So I think that we've got to actually cooperate with all other countries. I mean, France is having a huge problem. They've far more illegal migrants than we do. Italy is in the front line of it.
But maybe this would put pressure on Ireland to put pressure on France to do more.
Absolutely. It could work in our favour. We could get the Irish government to actually deal with the EU because they can, because they are part of it, might make Macron actually step up and do something for the money that we're giving him.
Because tensions are really high in Ireland with this. I mean, they've got a housing crisis.
That's the other problem.
Worse than ours.
Yeah, I mean, that's made it more difficult because, I mean, they've had riots over this.
Yeah, they
because their housing crisis is worse than we have here. On the basis of that, people are saying, well, if all the migrants come in, they're going to take the houses, and so it goes on.
That's very difficult. Claire, let's have a look at the Guardian front page, shall we? And Humza Yousaf in peril.
Yes. Now, this has been
that
very...
smile off your face.
I'm not smiling. It's very serious, but also really quite funny. Can't blame the English for this one. This is entirely up to the Scottish Parliament. Humza Yousaf, the First Minister of Scotland, has stopped his power-sharing deal with the Scottish Greens.
He seemed very pleased about it at the time when he did it, didn't he?
He did. He said they were very progressive, and he was the continuity candidate after Nicola Sturgeon stepped down, and he wanted the Greens to be on board. Now, the Greens, naturally, were not very happy with all of the oil exploration. They wanted to stop all those licences. Scottish people getting very fed up because a lot of the economy based around the oil industry in Scotland. And there's also the slight problem. There was the gender clinics decision, which the Greens didn't like. So it now looks as if Humza Yousaf will face a vote of no confidence, which could happen Tuesday or Wednesday next week.
And it all hangs on Ash Regan.
Yeah, and this is the ultimate irony. Ash Regan, who used to be an SNP member, did in fact run for the leadership, and then went over to join Alex Salmond's Alba Party to be their first MSP, and now could hold the final casting vote as to whether Humza Yousaf remains as First Minister. Now, he waved her off with a "it's no loss to us." Yeah. Goodbye.
You'll regret that.
He will regret it, and she has sat there very nicely. Now, if I was Ash Regan, I would also be putting together my list of demands.
Well, she has done.
But I don't think it goes far enough. I think that she needs to sort of say, Humza Yousaf needs to bring back Take the High Road. You could have some real fun ones. Chuck in the serious issues, but just chuck in a couple of little things, you know, statues for the stars of Balamory, tunnocks of cake for every family, those kind of things, because she really now does hold the balance of power, and that patience and the sort of the way she presented herself is going to come out in her favour.
Yeah.
But what you really want is to get Humza Yousaf to actually relax his gender recognition laws that he's been trying to bring in. At the moment, that they're stymied, but she objected to the idea that you could change gender without any medical diagnosis. All you had to do was swear an oath to live in your acquired gender. She has a letter outstanding to him saying, what are you doing about this? Now, I think that probably he ought to reply before this vote of confidence goes through.
But do you think that it would make any difference whatsoever? It does seem as though people are coalescing around the point that he has to go. He has not proved to be a particularly good First Minister. He's going to be there probably for, what, just a year? That would be the entirety of his reign.
But that's the thing,
I'm not sure...
Yeah, because even if he won this vote, where does that leave him?
Yeah.
It leaves him teetering on the brink.
In a sense, it's the same thing that we've got down here with Rishi Sunak, that Rishi Sunak would win a no-confidence vote, but the mere fact you're holding it means that your authority does drain away.
No.
But I still don't see that there's much room, even if he does reply to her letter, even if he does make some nice, kind words around the gender issues. I don't think it's going to make much difference. He doesn't have that majority. The Scottish Conservatives have already said that they would fully, they want to put down the vote of no confidence. They're quite happy to see him gone. So I think that the odds are not in his favour. I'm not sure there's anything that he can particularly offer up at the moment that's going to make the world of difference.
Well, Alex Salmond has warned Humza Yousaf that he could go down in history as Humza the Brief. Yes. Pretty scathing this morning. Oh, dear. Nigel, let's have a look at the Times front page, shall we? MI5 checks for academics to curb threats from China. Tell us a bit more about this.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised this has not been done already, but 24 university vice-chancellors were called in by Ken McCullum, the boss of MI5, and what he's saying to them is if you're working on sensitive projects like AI or something like that, that MI5 want to actually check you out because China, Iran and Russia are desperate to steal our secrets. And the argument goes that we beaver away actually getting a technological advantage, and then someone comes along and just whips it from under our noses. So if you actually check the academics out, you can make sure you've got people there who are basically not spies. It seems to me a fairly straightforward thing to do. And as I say, what I am surprised about is security checks like this weren't done in the first place.
Yeah, it's a big glaring question, isn't it, Claire?
It is, and you sort of think, was there a sort of level of arrogance as to say, well, these people are professionals, they're coming into universities to work on these high-level projects, but that's the first rule of spying, is that you would go to the places where you're going to gain the most information and you'll fit in. So if you're a professor and you're going to go to Oxford or Cambridge to go and look at the research programmes, that would be the first place I would look if I were the security services. So it does seem a little strange, but it was quite interesting that the universities, the vice-chancellors, had been sort of hauled into a meeting for the very first time with the security services. So hopefully this is now focused their attentions on perhaps who they let have access to their material.
All right, we're down to... we've got a minute left. 2 minutes left. So let's talk about the James Webb Telescope.
I knew we'd go.
Nigel, yes, we're definitely going there.
I love this one. This is great. Now, question...
Are you a space nerd as well?
Yeah, afraid so.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, absolutely. What this is a star 124 light years away, which has got oceans of water. But the key thing on this star is it's got a gas called dimethyl sulfide, which can only be produced by life. So this is why it's actually quite exciting. Now, unfortunately, they're not sort of cuddly ETs or anything like that. It'll probably be plankton or sort of tiny organisms. But it's the first time we've really found likely evidence that there is life on a different planet.
Yeah.
Star, in fact. Sorry, star, not planet.
Well, no, a planet.
What is a planet with? Yes, it's a red dwarf.
Well, yeah, but it's a planet.
It's a big planet.
It's a big planet going round the red dwarf.
Yeah.
Stephen, do you want to tell us a bit more about this?
Yeah, well, it's a red dwarf, and it's quite a lot smaller than the sun, but the planet's about 2.5 times the size of Earth, isn't it? In an ocean world.
And I still like to think that there would be some cuddly aliens. I don't want to think of it as plankton. I think that there needs to be intelligent life out there.
I'm with you, Claire.
Well, there will be, because if there's any life, if we can find any signs of life, it means there will be intelligent life elsewhere.
But it is a long way away, so a Voyager spacecraft would take 2 million years to actually reach it, and should they be intelligent and they've sent us a message 100 years ago, we'll still have to wait 24 more years to get it because of the light speed.
There you go.
Could happen in our lifetime, though. That's fun.
Could happen. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Let's get a message from Annie Shuttleworth right now.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another fairly cloudy and rather cool day, and there's a few showers around for some. But for the time being, should stay fairly dry and bright through the rest of the morning, particularly across north and western areas of the country. Clouds going to bubble up, though, as we head towards lunchtime, and the risk of showers starts to develop. Though I think many areas across the north should stay fairly dry. Now, towards the south, we start to see clouds thicken through this afternoon across many areas of Wales into parts of the Midlands and and across the south coast ahead of this showery band of rain that will push up northwards throughout tonight, and temperatures will be well below average for the time of year. So another fairly cool day today. Cloud will tend to fade away across northern areas through this evening, so it will be a clear and dry night once again across many areas of northern England, Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, and there is a risk of a further frost for Saturday morning. Across the south, though, cloud will continue to thicken as this band of showery rain continues to move northwards, but that will introduce some milder air, so it's not going to be quite as cold across southern areas of England and Wales through this evening. Now, it will be a bright but cold start across the north on Saturday. The best of the sunshine is likely to be in the morning. I think as you head towards the afternoon, cloud will bubble up once again, and there's a risk of a few showers, but again, most areas should stay dry. Across the Midlands, though, cloud will really thicken. It's going to be quite a dull afternoon, and temperatures will be suppressed. And in the south, any brighter spells that develop could pep off a few showers.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Buses replaced trains on a number of routes this morning between Airdrie and Bathgate for emergency engineering works, also between Nottingley and Castleford via Pontefract, Monkhill and Glasshoughton. Trains diverting, that's because of a landslip. Buses are running between Chinley and New Mills Central, with trains between Manchester, Piccadilly and Sheffield diverting via Stockport because of a track fault, and buses replace trains between Woking and Surbiton where overnight engineering works have overrun. Now on the M25 in Kent, all lanes have reopened now between junctions 5 and 6 from the M26 towards Godstone. After overnight roadworks overran earlier, there are still queues though from junction 4 at Orpington. The M26 in Kent has reopened too towards the M25, but there are still queues for around a mile off the M20. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win our biggest prize yet. There's an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Plus, courtesy of Variety Cruises, a bespoke 7-night small boat cruise for two worth £10,000. With flights, meals, excursions and drinks included, your next holiday could be on us. Choose any one of their 2025 Greek adventures and find your home at sea. We'll also send you packing with these luxury travel gifts. Hurry, as lines close on Friday. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good morning to you. It's 7 o'clock on Friday, the 26th of April. Today, tensions are high in Scotland as Humza Yousaf faces a vote of no confidence after ripping up his coalition agreement with the Greens.
Yes, the Scottish First Minister is only just clinging on to his political life. Will he survive next week? Find out more with me very soon.
A poll of GB News viewers has revealed that the Labour Party are 11 points ahead of the Conservatives. Another worrying sign for the Prime Minister.
A revolutionary new jab bringing hope of a possible cure for skin cancer as it begins trials in the UK.
And Prince William surprises students in the West Midlands during a school trip to support mental health, revealing his favourite joke along the way.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow. Moo.
And in the sport today, Manchester City are doing what they do by winning games towards the end of the season as they beat Brighton 4-0 last night. More trouble off the track for Red Bull as chief designer leaves, and Sweden are saying no or nyeh to VAR.
Good morning. It's a cloudy start today, but will there be any more sunshine over the weekend? Well, you can find out all the details with me a little later on.
Morning to you, I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
we were asking you earlier on, who would you like to be the next Prime Minister? And I did say, out of the choice of Keir Starmer or Rishi Sunak, most of you saying Rishi Sunak, but not with any sense of enthusiasm.
Excitement or enthusiasm, yes, that's safe to say, I think.
Yeah.
Lots of people also saying neither.
Yes, which doesn't bode well.
It doesn't bode well, considering that is pretty much the choice when it comes to who's going to be the next Prime Minister.
Yeah. No excitement there. And it's a good point, actually, to raise, because joining us now is the Shadow Secretary of State for Business and Trade, Jonathan Reynolds. Good to see you this morning.
Good morning.
Before we get on to the meat of matters this morning, you'll have seen that we have this poll saying Labour has an 11-point lead amongst GB News viewers and listeners, which is interesting. People this morning have no enthusiasm either way, really. And in terms of the general health of politics in the nation, that's not very good, is it?
Well, good morning. Let me say, first of all, the people you've pulled there, obviously, people of excellent judgment and a sound character there. But, I mean, look, where is politics right now? Well, when I go around the country, you know, we've got these elections on the 2nd of May. There is, first of all, a genuine desire for change, even amongst people who would describe themselves as very strong, historically conservative voters. And second of all, there is, yes, I think, a sense that we've been through a period where there's been a lot of drama. You know, you've had a lot of prime ministers in a short space of time. You've had a lot of elections in a short space of time, a lot of referendums in a short space of time. And actually, when I hear people talk about the choices that they believe are before them, yes, they want change, but they also want an end to this drama, and they want a government that's going to just knuckle down. Might not be as exciting as some of the political developments have been in the last few years, but they want to get on with the things that government should do. Sort out the NHS, get the transport system working better, build some homes for your children and yourself to live in. That is what Labour is offering. So, look, there's always going to be a degree of cynicism about the political system, but I do think when you go back to how are people feeling right now, the kind of change they want is what Labour's offering.
Well, look, I mean, I mean, honestly, no disrespect, because I mean, I know MPs actually do work very hard, and I know it's tough being in opposition. However, there is this general sense that people are going, yeah, all right, Labour, best of a bad bunch, which doesn't say much for Labour, does it? In all that you sort of, well, people are sort of saying, well, you're not the Tories, therefore we might vote for you. But where's the enthusiasm? Why haven't you been able to generate this enthusiasm?
Well, plus, I wouldn't accept the premise of that, to be fair. But let's be honest. The last general election saw Labour get pretty much its worst result in history. And if you'd asked me, honestly, the day after that, I would have said it's going to take more than one general election for Labour to even be in the game. You know, we were so far behind. We've got things so wrong. To be in a position, I mean, the Hartlepool by-election, Labour lost in Hartlepool 3 years ago, just 3 years ago. And here we are now looking at polls where clearly a lot of people are putting their faith in Labour. They are looking at the options and saying, yes, we want to make that change to a change of government when the election is called. We're not complacent about that, but we've got to keep making the case. I think, honestly, the transformation in Labour has been remarkable. And I think a lot of the credit for that should go to Keir Starmer. A lot of people didn't think this was possible. So I can't underestimate the job that we have had to do. I can't stress enough the change that we've had to make to do that. It is, I think, different to what you saw in 1997, where you'd obviously had an election before that where Labour came very close. And there was a lot of can Labour actually just go that bit further and win it? We're trying to go from one of our worst results in history to what would be one of the best. And that's a big change. And I think alongside that, you saw some people vote Conservative for the first time ever in the last election. And to be frank, they haven't had what they thought they were being offered. And of course, when people have made that big jump and been let down, they're going to feel strongly about that. They're going to be cross and feel let down. And we've got to do more to win those people over. But let's not underestimate the progress that's been made so far.
Mr. Reynolds, you've been talking about what the Labour Party is going to offer the British public. What's going to be offered in terms of defence? Do we know any more about whether the Labour Party is going to match the government's pledge to increase defence spending to 2.5% of GDP by 2030? We hear that you would consider a review if and when you come into power. But Johnny Mercer, the Veterans Minister, has said this just shows that the Labour Party can't be trusted on defence, that they will allow a long-winded review to take place whilst the world becomes more dangerous around us.
I'm sorry, I've got to laugh at comments like that. Now, we've been clear we would like to have that commitment to 2.5%. That is our commitment. We actually made that before the government did. But when Conservative politicians are saying, will Labour match the Conservatives' plans, I'll say, well, show me the plans and I'll tell you if we match the detail of those plans. I mean, the scale of how significant, particularly the army, has been hollowed out since 2010. I mean, when I was elected as an MP, the regular army would have been, well, over 110,000 soldiers. I mean, today it's 75,000. Like every bit of the public services we depend upon, it's been heavily reduced in the last few years. And the idea, by the way, going to sack some civil servants and then produce the kind of turnaround that they're talking about. So we've always been clear, yes, we match that commitment. Yes, we want to see that ambition going into 2030 of 2.5% being spent of GDP being spent on defence. But don't ask us to match plans the government themselves haven't actually got. And of course, given we've had relatively recently, remember we were talking about a budget, the chance for the government to lay out those detailed plans. Since then, we've had a commitment to abolish national insurance, so there's 46 billion added to Conservative plans. Now we've got this commitment. I don't know how they've got to the figure of 75 billion pounds for that, by the way. But, you know, let's be frank, this is not serious stuff from the government. This is an election campaign without the election being called. So I would probably say to the government, call the election campaign, let's have the two manifestos, but don't possibly even dare suggest you've got a stronger record on defence when you've hollowed out the army as much as you've done over the last 14 years.
Who are we meant to believe when it comes to, I mean, the figures about how much money we've got in our pockets now? I mean, the Labour Party, the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is saying, you know, despite the changes to the tax system, which is meant to put more money in our pocket, inflation means that we've got less. Inflation's coming under control now. I don't know what the exact figure is. You'll know, 3 point something or other %. So it's coming down towards target. Is Rachel Reeves right to say, actually, we're still out of pocket, despite the fact that inflation is coming down?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's a straightforward yes to that one, because obviously, first of all, when inflation comes down, it's not a reduction in prices. Prices are still going up. They're just going up not as fast as they were, and inflation has been so high that any gains people have got in their pay packet, if they're getting it round about this time in the month, they will still be worse off. I mean, one of the most shocking things is that this has been the first parliament really in modern history where people will be less well off at the end of the parliament than they were at the beginning of it. And the kind of change, the big change that's required, of course, we all want to see inflation go back to 3.2% it's come down to. What we need is that big step change in how the UK economy is performing. That's going to mean building some homes. That's a big part of Labour's plan. It's going to mean having a better relationship with some of our key trading markets, including the European Union, moving past Brexit, just getting sure that's the right trading deal, sorting out the apprenticeship levy. It's going to mean having some real ambition on net zero, on industrial policy, not seeing what we've got this week again in Port Talbot, thousands of job losses with significant government money going in for not much coming out of it. You need this big step change. And for the government to say, well, we've turned a corner, we've got there. Look, I judge how inflation's doing. I'm at home today. I'm talking to you from my home in Stalybridge. I go to Stalybridge Tesco and I see the price of ketchup, of cereal. I mean, this is what really matters to people. And it is gone up to a degree that no one's going to be feeling, you know, the good times are back when they get their pay packet this week with a few pence off national insurance.
Mr Reynolds, whilst we've got you mentioned shops there, and it does lead me on nicely to this story. It's on the front page of the Daily Mail this morning, actually. It's about shoplifting in this country. It appears to be an epidemic. New figures out this morning show that shoplifting is occurring once a minute in this country at the moment. 430,000 incidents a day. How would the Labour Party fix this?
Well, it's an outrage. I mean, let me say very clearly as well, this is organised crime. You know, this is not people in hard times shoplifting in the main. This is organised crime. We've done a lot of work with the USDOR trade union and with big retailers like the Cooperative Group around the kind of technology and support for shop workers. But fundamentally, our plan is to implement the police efficiency plan that's on the table, put more police into the police force and use those to tackle. You know, sometimes people think this isn't the most serious type of crime, but it is, because it's serious organised crime. It blights urban areas. It means you can't have the kind of regeneration, the kind of retail and town centre and high street spaces that are vibrant and we all want to see. So fundamentally for us, it's about more police, but there's work that can be done working with retailers and unions as well to do that. Something called the Freedom from Fear campaign covers violence against shop workers as well. But this is a really, really serious issue.
OK. Jonathan Reynolds, Shadow Secretary of State for Business and Trade. Very good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, interesting points made.
Yeah.
Interesting points made. He's a good performer, actually. I was just listening to them thinking he's a good... doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with him, what he's saying, but he's a good performer in a way that Keir Starmer isn't.
He's personable, isn't he?
Very personable. Keir Starmer's just a bit flat. I don't know. But it's that enthusiasm that a lot of you, not all of you, but a lot of you getting in touch this morning, you don't care who it is. You're fed up with all of them now, which is not a good place to be in. You've got to have some enthusiasm for politics, for a party, for your beliefs, whichever party you believe in and trust, and it just doesn't seem to be there.
Sean Cooper's been in touch on gbnews.com/you'll say, saying, I'm a proper right-wing Conservative. I despise the Labour Party. However, Jonathan Reynolds comes across as a really decent bloke. He talks a lot of sense. I think he might be in the wrong party. So there you go.
I think I disagree with you there. See, I don't think you should despise a party. I think you should be in a position where you've just got to listen to what they say, because they shift positions so much. I mean, some people say there's not that much between the Tories and the Labour Party, which is why some of them, of course, are going. Some of you are going over to reform, because you say there's not enough difference between the two main parties. Anyway. If you're fed up with politics, hard luck, because there's going to be an awful lot of it.
Strap in, it's going to be a very busy year, isn't it?
It is, and although there's no parliamentary elections in Scotland until 2026, as it currently stands, well, it's all happening there as well, because tensions are simmering after the Greens have revealed they're going to vote against the First Minister, Humza Yousaf, in a vote of no confidence.
Yes, the decision follows the collapse of the SNP's power-sharing deal with the Greens yesterday, leaving Mr Yousaf in charge of a minority government.
Well, the no-confidence motion proposed by the Scottish Conservative leader, Douglas Ross, who said the SNP leader was weak and a failed First Minister.
Well, joining us now is GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. A lot to unpack here, Olivia. Do you think that Humza Yousaf can survive this?
Well, my instinct is that ultimately Yousaf probably can't survive this. There will be this vote of no confidence probably early next week, and the result of that all depends, amazingly, on a woman called Ash Regan. Now, Ash Regan was an SNP MP, but she fell out massively with Humza Yousaf. She ran against him in the leadership contest, but they disagreed on trans rights. Ash Regan is of the J.K. Rowling school of thought. She's worried that women's rights are being eroded. And eventually this disagreement with Yousaf became so huge that she defected from the SNP and joined the Alba Party, which is Alex Salmond's breakaway nationalist party. Now, because the SNP is one seat short of a majority in Holyrood, without Ash Regan's vote in the vote of no confidence, Humza Yousaf looks destined to lose that vote. Now, if he loses that vote, obviously he will have to stand down. But even if Ash Regan puts aside her differences with Yousaf and ends up voting for him in this vote of no confidence, I think it's quite likely that Yousaf will have to leave anyway. In the very short term, yes, he can cling on to his position, but in the long term, his position becomes untenable. If you think back to the days of Theresa May with her without a majority, with her confidence and supply agreement with the DUP, what happened was every time there was an important vote in the House of Commons, she would lose. Those Brexit votes went on over and over and over again, and eventually she just had to stand down because her government wasn't able to govern. And it seems quite likely that something quite similar will happen with Humza Yousaf. If Ash Regan votes for him this week, that's no guarantee that in the future, on subsequent votes, she will vote with him. And what could probably happen is that Yousaf will end up losing vote after vote after vote, and eventually his own party would turn against him.
OK, Olivia, for now, thanks very much indeed.
Now, at 16 minutes past 7, let's take a look at some other stories coming to the newsroom this morning.
Well, the world's first personalised mRNA jab for melanoma is being tested in the UK. A British teacher was the first person to get the jab on what is being described as a groundbreaking clinical trial.
I had any fear because by doing the trial, I feel like I'm actively doing something to give it a kicking, basically.
A 13-year-old girl has been charged with 3 counts of attempted murder after 2 teachers and a pupil were stabbed at a Mad Valley school in Wales on Wednesday. The teachers and the pupil have now been released from hospital after being treated for those stab wounds.
Vice-chancellors from 24 leading universities have been warned by MI5 that foreign states are targeting British institutions to undermine national security. The government and security services are worried that cutting-edge research could be targeted by foreign states. Now, across the country, nuclear test veterans and campaigners are suing the government over missing medical records belonging to those involved in atomic bomb programmes more than 70 years ago.
Yes, tens of thousands of British and Commonwealth servicemen took part in various operations. Now veterans want their medical records to prove they were exposed to levels of radiation which have impacted generations of their family. Our reporter Jack Carson has the story.
Between 1955 and 1989, an average of 55 nuclear tests were conducted across the globe each year. More than 30,000 young British and Commonwealth servicemen served at British test locations in Australia and the Pacific Ocean. But in the years since, those who were involved say they've been ignored and lied to about their exposure to radiation. For decades, Lab Rats International has represented the millions across the world exposed to fallout from the testing programmes and the families who still suffer today from illness and deformities. In Gloucestershire, founder of Lab Rats, Alan Owen, meets with veterans Dennis Hayden and Terry Hughes, who were deployed to atomic test sites. Dennis was posted to Australia in the 1960s and has suffered countless health problems he believes are because of his exposure to radiation.
We were part of an experimental programme that was set in motion right in 1952 at the start. They wanted to know the effects of radiation would have not only on the equipment that was being used, but on the men themselves. And that's why none of us had any protective clothing when we went to the forward areas.
Terry Hughes was part of the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, the support branch of the Royal Navy. He was deployed to Christmas Island in 1958 and witnessed the detonation of a hydrogen bomb.
And the resident naval officer had to come out and explain to everybody there was nothing to worry about. It was only a bomb that would be exploded and we wouldn't feel any effects at all. And then we had a countdown for the bomb. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And once again we watch the fireball as it forms, proclaiming that Britain joins the United States and Russia as a hydrogen bomb power.
My wife had 1 miscarriage. My son can't have any children. I've got a granddaughter who has epileptic fits.
Last year, the government unveiled the Nuclear Test Medal, recognising the military, civilian and overseas staff and personnel who participated in Britain's nuclear testing programme in the 1950s and 1960s. But for Lab Rats founder Alan Owen, whose own father was a nuclear test veteran, the work is only just beginning. In September, they launched a legal challenge to the Ministry of Defence to provide the test veterans full medical records, which they say they've been denied access to.
We sit in this bubble as the nuclear test veteran community, fighting against the establishment. And they will say, ministers will go in Parliament and say, all you've got to do is apply for your medical records and they'll give them to you. It just doesn't happen. It's not a reality. They're not there to as easy, as accessible as just applying. They will fight you all the way. They will delay it.
In response, a government spokesperson said, "We are grateful to all service personnel who participated in the British nuclear testing programme, which is why we have formally recognised them with an official medal. Nuclear test veterans who believe they have suffered ill health due to service have the existing and long-standing right to apply for no-fault compensation under the War Pensions Scheme." The fight for these veterans and their families lives on because thousands who came before never got the recognition and justice for their service. Jack Carson, GB News.
It's remarkable what those people went through, actually. And I know people didn't fully understand the dangers and things back then.
Yeah, they deserve the truth now, don't they?
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do. Crazy.
It's all of these things that come to light, isn't it? So many years on, it's just...
Get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
All right, shall we see what the weather's going to do for us today?
Let's, with Annie.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another fairly cloudy and rather cool day, and there's a few showers around for some. But for the time being, should stay fairly dry and bright through the rest of the morning, particularly across north and western areas of the country. Clouds going to bubble up though as we head towards lunchtime, and the risk of showers starts to develop. Though I think many areas across the north should stay fairly dry. Now towards the south, we start to see cloud thicken through this afternoon across many areas of Wales, into parts of the Midlands and across the south coast ahead of this showery band of rain that will push up northwards throughout tonight. And temperatures will be well below average for the time of year. So another fairly cool day today. Cloud will tend to fade away across northern areas through this evening, so it will be a clear and dry night once again across many areas of northern England, Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, and there is a risk of a further frost for Saturday morning. Across the south, though, cloud will continue to thicken as this band of showery rain continues to move northwards, but that will introduce some milder air, so it's not going to be quite as cold across southern areas of England and Wales through this evening. Now, it will be a bright but cold start across the north on Saturday. The best of the sunshine is likely to be in the morning. I think as you head towards the afternoon, cloud will bubble up once again, and there's a risk of a few showers, but again, most areas should stay dry. Across the Midlands, though, cloud will really thicken. It's going to be quite a dull afternoon, and temperatures will be suppressed. And in the south, any brighter spells that develop could pep off a few showers.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now it's time for the Great British Giveaway.
Is it?
Isn't it? Yes. And a few weeks ago, we called Charles from Stoke-on-Trent to tell him he'd won £18,000. He's now got his prize money, and this is what he had to say about his winning experience.
I'm Charles. I live in Stoke-on-Trent and won £18,000 cash. I sent a text through my mobile phone and it was as simple as that. I really did not expect to win anything at all. It was just amazing, and as soon as it goes into your bank account, it just changed. It's a life-changing thing. I'm obviously going to treat myself to a little holiday somewhere, a little breakaway. Just go for it. It's an absolute must. You must try and go for it. I mean, I'm a pensioner, and to win £18,000 as a pensioner, it's fantastic.
Well, if you win the current one, which is the last day to enter today, you'll have to treat yourself to a holiday, because that's part of the prize. A luxury Greek cruise, luxury travel gadgets, and 10 grand in cash.
Yes, it's a prize worth over £20,000, and here's how it could all be yours.
It's the final day to see how you could win our biggest prize so far. With thanks to Variety Cruises, a family company sailing since 1942, you have the chance to win a £10,000 7-night small boat cruise for two. With flights, meals, excursions and drinks included, your next holiday could be on us. Plus, you'll also win £10,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer sizzle. And we'll pack you off with these luxury travel gifts. Hurry, as lines close today. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. today. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, there's a new migraine drug. But why can't the 11 million people who struggle with the condition in this country get access to it? We'll find out more after the break.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's Live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's Live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from Thursday the 2nd of May,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections.
We'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from Thursday the 2nd of May at midnight on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, a new migraine drug called atogepant will only be prescribed to a maximum of 170,000 Brits.
Yeah, well, that's why. It means that about 11 million UK sufferers who get debilitating migraines several times a week just won't be able to access the treatment.
Well, experts and doctors are urging people to explore alternative approaches to managing their condition.
Yeah, but it begs the question, what's the point in launching a new drug if most people can't get hold of it?
Well, joining us now is Chief Scientific Officer at MigraSoothe, Dr. Peter Charder. Good to see you this morning, Doctor. Well, that's the key question, isn't it? What's the point in launching this new drug if people can't access it?
Well, the reason, I mean, this drug is designed as kind of the third or the fourth line treatment. Right. So you'll go to your doctor, they'll give you one thing. You'll go to your neurologist, they'll give you another thing. Because it's a new drug and it's very expensive, it's about £500 a month.
Oh.
And you can imagine this is really for people who've got chronic migraine and they have to have at least 15 days a month before the NHS will be prescribing it.
Right.
So it's designed as sort of the third line of defence.
Right.
But there are many alternatives. You don't actually have to do that. You can actually look at supplementation to try and stop the migraines happening in the first place. And also, atogepant isn't really a remedy. I mean, it's not going to stop migraines. It's just going to reduce your migraines.
Mm.
Just like all of the therapies, even vitamins do the same thing. They don't stop it. They're not a cure, but you can radically reduce the number of migraines you get.
Are we seeing more people suffering with migraines?
Lots more.
Because do we know why that is? Because do we even know what causes them in the first place with some people?
Well, we think that there are... basically, if you look at the vitamin, which is vitamin B2, it gives energy. So there are probably constraints in your energy production. You're not converting your food or carbohydrates into enough energy in certain parts of the brain cell. And you get a certain point where there's a restriction, then that's not just a headache, it's debilitating, it's stopping your eyes from working, your hearing, you might get all sorts of weird and wonderful effects. So that's when it becomes a critical thing. Now, why are we getting more? I think we're getting loads of chronic diseases. And I think we're getting chronic diseases because of ultra-processed foods, because the lack of nutrients in our food, and I think because we use antibiotics, we're cleaner than ever we've been, we've got antivirals going on. So all these things, you know, are not what a human being of 500 years or 200 years ago, even in Victorian times, would be full of filth.
Yeah, we're too clean, are we?
We are too clean. And also, you know, at the same time, we don't get enough vitamin D because we're not out there and because we're totally covered. And even if you've got glass and you've got sunlight, you don't really get vitamin D. You actually have to be outside to get that vitamin D. And vitamin D is activating your immune system. So we have a few different things all building up. But the idea of ultra-processed foods is, you know, when we start interfering and we have everything that we microwave, we've got pre-processed, you know, just imagine most apples in this country are probably a year old, you know, because they've gone to storage, they've been put in an atmosphere where they're stored. So you do think there must be some effect on that fruit. And then, if you look at what's happened to fruit and vegetables since the 1980s, they've all been designed so they don't go off. So that means they're never ripe, they never smell. And that also means that they've got less vitamin B, less vitamin C, all of the vitamins you could want are much less than they've ever been. So these are the reason why we're getting loads of chronic problems. Like, they don't kill you. Migraines don't kill you, but they stop you from functioning.
They're debilitating, though, aren't they? If anyone that does suffers, I mean, especially if you suffer badly with them, you can't get out of bed.
Well, that's the difference between a normal headache and a migraine. A migraine will just really stop you from doing
anything.
Your main function.
What I don't understand then, because obviously there's been various medications, over-the-counter and prescription, that have been around for years, and now this new one. But if one of the key solutions can be supplements, in effect, that you can just buy or order or buy over the counter, then why hasn't that been explored in the past? You would have thought that had been a first option.
It has. It's just people don't know about it. So the National Institute of Clinical Excellence, called NICE, they're the people who authorise the drugs that the NHS can use. They've said that vitamin B2 in high dose, since 2012 they've had it on a paper, but most GPs are not aware of it because there's no one funding that. You know, GPs get awareness because a big drug company will say to them, come and have a look at our new treatment. And in fact, they forget about the old treatments because the new treatments look better.
So what have you got in front of you now?
So this is a product that I've been responsible for creating, called Migrasoothe. And this has 400 times the normal dose of vitamin B2. And riboflavin, which is B2, you know, when you buy your Rice Krispies, they'll fortify it with riboflavin. This is what's in there. But you can't actually get that amount in normal food. It's actually very, very difficult. So even if, for example, you had a bowl of nuts or you had some asparagus, you'd literally have to have kilos of it because there isn't enough. Because this contains...
But is it dangerous to eat that? But don't you just wee it out? Or...
You wee it out every day. So the real... I mean, that's the colour of it. So the real side effect that people will find is that their wee goes luminescent yellow. But that wee going luminescent yellow is because vitamin B2 gets flushed out of the system. But what it does, how does it stop the migraine is the question. So in all of our cells, we've got these little, if you like, they're batteries called mitochondria. They're the things that make energy. If you remember your high school science.
It's all coming back to you now, yeah.
Thousands of these little Duracell things which are converting. So by flooding your body with vitamin B2, the mitochondria are being activated. That stops the migraine from happening in the first place. So you remember when I told you migraines, there are all sorts of reasons potentially because there are actually 100 different migraines as well. So when that energy is produced, and you've got to take it for a few months, by the way, it's not something that's going to work straight away. Some people get effect in a week, but most people, the NHS document says you've got to use it for 3 months. But if it's only 30 pence a day, it's not...
It's a lot more affordable, isn't it?
It's a lot more. But then the other thing is people say, well, I just came into the building here and the guy said, well, I take a multivitamin every day. Yes, you can take a multivitamin every day, but that contains 0.7 milligrams of riboflavin. This is 400 milligrams. So a lot of the therapies do not happen when you've got tiny amounts of them.
Right.
That kind of gives you the background.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
It is.
Actually. And if you can do stuff which is more natural than proper medication.
If you've got chapped lips, that's a sign that your vitamin B2 is low.
Oh, really?
That's it. If you take this, your chapped lips will go. It's actually very good for cataracts. It's very good for skin. Because don't forget, we're just energising our body. And also, by the way, women are more badly affected with migraines. And that's why migraines were always underdiagnosed. And especially around menopause, that's another trigger. So hormonal things affect women as well for the migraine.
Well, I might pop one of those, and I won't get any migraines, and I'll have very kissable lips.
Oh, well, your husband will be pleased.
Very popular when I get home.
Yes.
Dr. Chada, really good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, we've got all the latest sports with Paul Coit. That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Suffolk, the A14 is partly blocked eastbound just before the Dog Spur roundabout near Felixstowe, causing delays. In Essex, the A120 is partly blocked where a lorry's broken down on the roundabout at Hoxton Road in Harwich, and it's slow there too. Now on the M25 in Kent, there are clockwise delays from junction 4 for Orpington to 5 for the M26, where there's a lane closure for emergency repairs, that causing delays. The M20 in Kent, there's a lane closed westbound between junctions 5 and 4 from Aylesford to the A1 and Snodland turn, where someone's broken down, causing queues. And also in Kent on the A249, there are southbound queues. It's taking around 10 minutes to get through towards the roadworks just before junction 5 of the M2 at Sittingbourne. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel. GB News, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Welcome back. It's sports time.
It is. Paul's here. Good morning.
Good morning. It's Football Shirt Friday today.
Oh,
and I was going to wear a football... I've never been a big football shirt wearer, to be honest with you.
No.
But I do have this.
What's
and
that?
I thought maybe you could wear this. Now, look at that. Now,
it's like a sort of gilet.
What do you think about that, then? It's actually a vest. And there's a story behind it. It's got Champions League on there because I stole it from...
Oh.
Well, I borrowed it permanently. Champions League final 2019 when Spurs were playing Liverpool.
Yeah.
I was there, and at the end of the game, because Liverpool won the Champions League final, I thought I'd have a little wander around the dugouts and see what I could get my hands on.
Yeah, so
because I was very miserable, and that was Divock Origi, I believe, the man that scored the winning goal for Liverpool, his substitute shirt, which was it was just on the side, and I thought, I'll just pick it up.
I love that.
Yeah, I thought, so I was walking along with it, and I thought, nobody's stopped me, and so I just put it in my pocket, so there it is.
Have you given it a wash?
No, it still smells of Divock Origi. There you
lovely.
go. It smells of... There you go. Champions League winner there. What do you think?
Well, excellent.
But I don't think for Football Shirt Friday, because Football Shirt Friday is all about Bobby Moore Fund, raises money to help those with testicular cancer and research and awareness, and it's because Bobby Moore died at the age of 51, you know, our greatest players of all time. Yeah, of testicular cancer. So that's what Bobby Moore and the Bobby Moore Fund is all about, and it's about wearing so you donate and you wear your football shirt today.
It's a great cause, isn't it?
It is a great
So where's your shirt?
Well, that's it. That's the one I've got. I just brought that along.
Oh, so you need to be popping that
I thought
on.
because I was, I have to dress smartly for this. So I can wear a football shirt.
You could have got away with wearing your Arsenal top today.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Oh, my goodness me. Makes me nervous about Sunday.
All right, let's talk Man City.
Yep, Man City won 4-0 against Brighton yesterday, so they're doing what they do. I mentioned that earlier. They're winning games at the end of the season. They are now 1 point behind Arsenal, who are top of the Premier League with a game in hand. So probably most people would think Manchester City, but it all depends whether they slip up. So Liverpool playing West Ham, who did have a slip up the other day at 12:30. Then we've got Man City away at Nottingham Forest. We expect them to win. And then the North London derby, Arsenal away at Spurs on Sunday afternoon.
Should we talk about Red Bull? There's a lot of drama going on there, isn't there?
There is. Adrian Newey. Now, he's the chief designer there, so he's the man that designs the cars, and it's the cars that are making Red Bull win, we'd say, more than anything else. And they're so far ahead of everybody else. They've won every Grand Prix again this season. So it's all around the Christian Horner controversy, and it seems that Adrian Newey does not look very favourably on what's going on at Red Bull and has decided to step away. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be very interested in him coming to them. Can you imagine? It'd be an open cheque, wouldn't it? The amount of money that's in F1.
So. Surely he's got to be on gardening leave for a few seasons.
Well, yeah, how all that will work, I have absolutely no idea, but we know there's going to be big money involved. But there seems to... So everything that's going well on the track, off the track, not so at Red Bull.
Can we mention... I know we're a bit tight for time. Can we mention Sweden and VAR? And they've said, nah.
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 Nah to VAR.
Nah.
More or less every country around Europe has VAR, video assistant referee. Sweden haven't, and they've now said no, that they don't want VAR because they've seen everywhere else. Now, VAR, for me, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like a dodgy policeman there that's saying, no, I don't want to see any evidence. We'll just go with what we decide. Because VAR, whenever you see it, whatever you think about it, it's just showing pictures of what's happening. It is evidence of what's happening. It's the way it's being used. But the Swedes are saying, we don't want it. It's causing all this problem around Europe, so therefore we're going to keep things as we are. And they're going to be the only country that says, nah.
Nah. It reminds me of the Knights that say, nah. There you go. You won't get that one, will you? No.
It's another film for you to watch.
That's my very long list.
Another old film to watch.
You'll know what we're talking about, you know. Paul, thank you very much indeed. We've got the papers heading away very shortly with Nigel and Claire.
I'm Gloria Di Piero. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Many of the people that you had invited to come and speak were people who've been elected in their own countries. I'm thinking of people like Suella Braverman. I'm thinking of Nigel Farage, who has been a member of the European Parliament, of course, had an enormous impact on British politics. and Viktor Orban, who has been elected and re-elected. Many people may not care for the Prime Minister of Hungary, but he's certainly an elected person.
And in addition, we had about 15 to 16 members of the European Parliament who were also elected, and they really live in Brussels. And you would imagine that Brussels, being the head of the capital of the EU, would allow elected members of its own parliament to have an opportunity to voice their views. So I think what was very interesting about this is that the mayors overplayed their hands, so that because they overplayed their hands, all public opinion became entirely on our side. It was so evident, so transparent, that this was really an attempt to use the police instead of arguments to react to our conference, that it was a real direct threat, and it is still a direct threat to the freedom of assembly and to free speech.
So how do you think it leaves it? Is it more likely or less likely that there'll be future bans?
I think this is a trial run. What I'm really worried about is that if the future of democracy and free speech depends on the ruling of one judge, and you have to remember that 3 other judges ruled against us, then democracy is in big trouble. What worries me absolutely is that a strong body of political opinion amongst established politicians believes that it is okay to cancel conferences and to crush the people's opinions and prevent the freedom of assembly. Democracy actually depends on these foundational values.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me. My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nigel Nelson and Claire Pearsall are here to take us through the papers this morning. Let's kick off with this, should we? Chris Philp on Question Time. This is what happened.
Had my family members come from Goma on a crossing right now, would they then be sent back to the country that they're supposedly warring, Rwanda? Does that make any sense to you?
No, I think there's an exclusion on people from Rwanda being sent to Rwanda.
They're not from Rwanda, they're from Congo.
They're from Congo.
And they're supposedly warring these people from Rwanda. Are they then going to be sent to Rwanda if they came here on a crossing?
From
Congo? Yeah.
Would people be sent from... Well, I mean, Rwanda is a different country of Congo, isn't it? It's a different country. Yes. It is.
Yes.
Definitely.
You're saying if they come from a war zone in...
Oops.
Oh, dear.
Nigel?
Oh, dear. I think Wes Streeting's face was an absolute picture on that one. Yeah, I mean, obviously Chris Philp hadn't worked out what was going on in Rwanda and neighbouring Congo, where, in fact, there's a civil war going on, supported by the Rwandan President Paul Kagame. 500,000 people have been displaced there. There's rebels, the M23 rebels, who are raping and murdering through the country. And, in fact, that there are an awful lot of Congolese refugees in Rwanda. They're there through the United Nations, also some evacuees from Libya. And these are people, they volunteer to go, unlike our scheme, which is compulsory, they volunteer to go, and the idea is they're in transit. They're looking for the UN's looking for a new home for them. But, I mean, really, Chris Philp should have been up to speed on the fact that these are 2 distinct countries with quite a bit going on in both of them.
Yes. I feel a bit sorry for him in that politicians have to be across everything, don't they? But, I mean, he really should have known that.
Well, yes, because he's also just voted to say that Rwanda is a safe country. Now, if you're voting on something as spectacularly large as that, you would understand the geography of the region that you're going to look at. Just pull up a map. Look at the countries surrounding it. That would be the really basic thing. And being former advisor to a minister, sometimes you just have to do it as basically as that. Just say, these are the countries, this is how you say them in case there's any difficult words, and you spell it out very, very basically. So why he wasn't quite prepared, I don't know, but Wes Streeting's side eye, I think, has got to be the meme of the week going forward. It was quite stunning and just... It just shows that you need to be prepared if you're going to go on and answer these questions. You need to have a good grasp of the subject. And he is a former immigration minister, so he doesn't really have much excuse.
No, he doesn't.
Claire, should we take a look at the Guardian front page? And the Prime Minister is being urged to write off fines for unpaid carers.
Yeah, now this story, on the surface of it, you sort of think, here we go again, writing off more money. But really quite serious. Carers' allowance is the grand total of £81.90 a week, which for somebody to take care of a loved one and save all of us an awful lot of money and hard work, if they have any extra earnings which take them over £151, even just by a penny, the DWP can then claw back the entire carers' allowance amount. And what has happened, some people have inadvertently gone over by a few pounds or a few pence, and the DWP has not alerted them quickly. So you've got people now owing tens of thousands of pounds in back fines to the government because the DWP has then deemed them to have been paid incorrectly.
It cannot be right.
It really can't. And I think when you're talking about people who are caring for loved ones, they are doing an incredibly difficult job. They are having to support a family and a house at the same time. They are saving us all an awful lot of money, and they're doing this because it's the right thing to do and they love that person. And here we are going to persecute them by saying you've earned too much money.
I mean, if they have to pay back the difference, so that, you know, if they've earned £5 over, if they have to pay that £5 back, then
that's different.
I've got some sympathy with that.
But at the moment, you can be a penny over and have to pay your full £81.90 back.
Yeah.
And that's got to be unjust.
Yeah. But this is someone sticking to the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law, isn't it?
But I think also the problem is the DWP aren't quick enough to tell people. So it could be one of those sort of inadvertent things. Your payment period was 2 days too long, or you earned a little bit extra for a little bit of overtime or something like that, which you don't realise is taking you over. And the DWP taking years to tell you, and that's not.
And then you
right.
face a £5,000 fine at the end of it, which
because they're taking all of your care.
They're taking all of it back.
It just can't be. It can't be right. It's a very small amount of money for the job that they do, and we should be really thankful that they're doing it.
Well, it's a tough job as well, isn't it? Claire, it's another one of yours, I'm afraid. Sorry, Nigel, but you can get involved. Feel free to get involved.
Thank you.
It's a problem that I have. But there's too much choice out there. You spend too long channel hopping. Deciding on something to watch.
Yes, you do.
When I'm not watching GB News, of course.
Of course, 183 hours a year in channel hopping.
But in just trying to choose a programme.
In just trying to settle on something to watch, because we all now have so much choice in different channels and different platforms. You can spend an awful lot of time going, no, don't like that, and flicking and flicking. Yeah. And apparently this causes a spiral of anxiety in individuals.
Well, now I know what I'm suffering from. I mean, I think we spend double this time sort of working out what programmes to watch. But I can't use the remote very well, so I've so far negotiated it as far as GB News. I can get that on, but Claire has to do all the rest with the thing to get me onto the news channel.
The thing, right? So the doofer becomes my control because
your job. Well, I'm not surprised. I assume that anyway.
Obviously. But Nigel can't manage the menu system. Or remember channel numbers just to go there quickly. So if you're trying to find a different platform, then you need to go to apps and you need to press a button.
But the benefit of that is that...
You can't defend yourself, Nigel. You're out of time. But we'll see you both a little bit later on. Here's the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another fairly cloudy and rather cool day, and there's a few showers around for some. But for the time being, should stay fairly dry and bright through the rest of the morning, particularly across north and western areas of the country. Clouds going to bubble up, though, as we head towards lunchtime, and the risk of showers starts to develop. Though I think many areas across the north should stay fairly dry. Now, towards the south, we start to see cloud thicken through this afternoon across many areas of Wales, into parts of the Midlands and across the south coast ahead of this showery band of rain that will push up northwards throughout tonight. And temperatures will be well below average for the time of year. So another fairly cool day today. Cloud will tend to fade away across northern areas through this evening, so it will be a clear and dry night once again across many areas of northern England, Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, and there is a risk of a further frost for Saturday morning. Across the south, though, cloud will continue to thicken as this band of showery rain continues to move northwards, but that will introduce some milder air, so it's not going to be quite as cold across southern areas of England and Wales through this evening. Now, it will be a bright but cold start across the north on Saturday. The best of the sunshine is likely to be in the morning. I think as you head towards the afternoon, cloud will bubble up once again, and there's a risk of a few showers, but again, most areas should stay dry. Across the Midlands, though, cloud will really thicken. It's going to be quite a dull afternoon, and temperatures will be suppressed. And in the south, any brighter spells that develop could pep off a few showers.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the A1 in Tyne and Wear, there's a lane closed northbound where someone's broken down between junctions 73 and 74 from Gateshead to Newcastle, causing delays. There are delays of up to half an hour. Trains heading north between Stevenage and Peterborough after a points problem. On the M11 in Essex, there's a lane closed on the northbound exit at junction 8, the Bishop Stortford Stansted Airport turn where someone's broken down. In London, the Rotherhithe tunnel's closed each way because of a breakdown causing delays. On the M25 in Essex, there's a lane closed where someone's broken down on the anti-clockwise exit at junction 30 for the A13, causing queues. On the M25 in Kent, there's a lane closed clockwise. There was a breakdown just before junction 4 at Orpington, with delays towards there from junction 3 for the M20, queues 2 from junction 4 at Orpington to 5 for the M26 because of emergency repairs. And on the M20 in Kent, there's a lane closed westbound where someone's broken down between junctions 5 and 4 from Aylesford to Leybourne, causing delays. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win our biggest prize yet. With thanks to Variety Cruises, a family company sailing since 1942, you have the chance to win a £10,000 7-night small boat cruise for two. With flights, meals, excursions and drinks included, you'll be able to choose from any one of their 2025 Greek adventures. Plus, you'll also win £10,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer sizzle. And we'll pack you off with these luxury travel gifts. Hurry, as lines close on Friday. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQs live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQs live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock on Friday, the 26th of April. Today, tensions are high in Scotland as Humza Yousaf faces a vote of no confidence after ripping up his coalition agreement with the Greens.
After an explosive day in Scottish politics, one might wonder if this is finally the moment that the writing is on the wall for Humza Yousaf. Join us as we analyse an incredible day of politics here in Scotland yesterday.
A poll of GB News viewers has revealed that the Labour Party are 11 points ahead of the Conservatives, another worrying sign for the Prime Minister.
It's bad news for Rishi Sunak, but there is a glimmer of hope. The Conservatives are more trusted on immigration. Could the Rwanda plan save the Prime Minister's skin?
The disgraced mogul caught by the Me Too movement, Harvey Weinstein, has his 2020 conviction overturned.
A revolutionary new jab is bringing hope of a possible cure to skin cancer as it begins trials in the UK.
And the Prince of Wales surprises students in the West Midlands during a school trip to support mental health, and he revealed his favourite dad joke along the way.
Knock knock.
Who's that?
Interrupting cow. No.
My dog's got no nose.
How does he smell?
Horrible.
Ah, very good.
Okay. In the sport this morning, Manchester City are on Arsenal's tail and could smell blood as they beat Brighton 4-0, still with the game in hand. Luke Littler upsets Liverpool fans. And the Chinese swimming story. Olympic swimmers are now likely to sue WADA, who said they'd sue USADA due to the announcement by Chinada.
Good morning. It's a cloudy start today, but will there be any more sunshine over the weekend? Well, you can find out all the details with me a little later on.
Morning to you, I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Perhaps we should get you to send in some dad jokes.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Seeing as Prince William's making them trendy again.
I quite liked the one from Prince William.
I've not heard that one before. I thought it was quite nice, really.
I thought it was very good. I thought his delivery was good. It was all in the comic timing. And
It is all in the timing.
Comedic timing.
I just like the fact he comes across as...
Human.
Sort of human.
Yes, there's even the... apparently it's Charlotte's favourite joke.
Oh, is it?
Princess Charlotte's favourite joke.
Right.
Which is lovely, isn't it, really? So I think they've all got the funny bone.
Yeah.
They've all got a sense of humour.
Bernadette says, can you repeat the vitamins, please? That was on vitamins that can help you with migraines and things. More preventative. I guess you have to take them every day.
Yeah.
But the key one was riboflavin.
Oh, you've got a very good memory.
Yeah, riboflavin.
And B2.
Yes, well, B2 is riboflavin's the thing.
Between us, we're...
Yes, so between us,
we're across the...
But you need to take about 400 milligrams a day.
Yes.
So there you go.
So I think the brand that was here was...
well, no, better not say that because that's advertising then, isn't
OK, can't say that.
No, I wouldn't say that. But yeah, riboflavin, 400 milligrams.
That's what you need.
B2,
yeah. Now, should we go to Scotland? Yes, because tensions are simmering after the Greens revealed their plans to vote against First Minister Humza Yousaf in a vote of no confidence.
Well, that follows a collapse of the SNP's power-sharing deal with the Greens yesterday, leaving Mr Yousaf in charge of now a minority government.
Well, the no-confidence motion was proposed by Scottish Conservative leader Douglas Ross, who branded the SNP leader weak and a failed First Minister.
Let's head to Glasgow and our Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire. Morning, Tony. Hey, what a day in Scottish politics yesterday.
Indeed. Certainly one of the most animated days that I can remember in quite some time. And let's face it, over the last 15 months or so, there have been no shortage of them. But indeed, this quite incredible moment yesterday morning, only 3 of these meetings of the Cabinet unscheduled have been ever happened in the past. Obviously including an Alex Salmond budget back in 2009 that his minority government couldn't pass, and then I believe just after Brexit, where plans started imminently on the next independence referendum that is obviously still not materialised. But yesterday certainly seems to be one of those meetings that has had the biggest effect, because not only did it leave Humza Yousaf and the SNP with a minority government, but it's also turned their yesterday allies into tomorrow's opponents. Now, certainly Douglas Ross was there and form first question at FMQs to launch this motion of no confidence. But then, as the day progressed, we heard from the political leaders of all of Scotland's parties, with the exception maybe of Alba. Have a wee look at this.
I can confirm today that on behalf of the Scottish Conservatives, I am lodging a vote of no confidence in Humza Yousaf. He is a failed First Minister. He is unfit for office. Shouldn't this be the end of the road for this weak First Minister?
The SNP have lost their way. They're weak, divided, incompetent and putting party before country. isn't it time to end the circus and call an election?
There are no circumstances under which the Scottish Liberal Democrats would express confidence in either the First Minister Humza Yousaf or his failing government.
We no longer have confidence in a progressive government in Scotland doing the right thing for climate and nature, so the Scottish Green MSPs will not be supporting Humza Yousaf in a vote of no confidence.
So there we have it. Now, if we do the maths here, it looks like there's essentially 64 would vote with the SNP and 64 without. That's not including any abstentions. And it could be that the casting vote will fall in the hands of Ash Regan. Now, it's expected that Ash Regan, who is the Holyrood leader of the Alba Party, which of course was founded by Alex Salmond, well, she is expected to give her conditions to Humza Yousaf later today. But lots of people will be asking, what happens next? What happens if Humza Yousaf fails this vote of no confidence? Well, unlike a vote of no confidence in the government, Humza Yousaf is under no obligation to step down. However, his credibility will take such a hit that it's very likely that his tenure will soon become untenable.
OK, Tony, thanks very much indeed.
Now, a new GB News poll has revealed good news for the Labour Party. According to our viewers, they are 11 points ahead of the Conservatives.
Now, GB News viewers and listeners also trust Labour more with the cost of living, the NHS and housing.
Well, joining us now is GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. What do you make of this, Olivia?
Well, it's pretty damning news for the Prime Minister. We've, of course, seen worse polls for the Conservatives. Labour only being 11 points ahead is actually quite unusual. But the fact that GB News viewers feel like this, an audience who Rishi Sunak would perhaps expect to have on side, is pretty revealing. The only sort of shred of hope for the Prime Minister that I can see in this is that the Conservatives are still more trusted on illegal migration than the Labour Party. And obviously that's an issue which is really, really important to the general public. Again and again, it comes either first or second in the British public's biggest concerns with what's happening in the UK. Now, Rishi Sunak finally managed to get his Rwanda policy over the political line, as it were, this week. The bill has received royal assent, and we are expecting flights to take off to Rwanda in the next 6 to 10 weeks. What Sunak is really, really hoping is that once those planes get going and hopefully prove to be a deterrent to migrants coming over here who will see that their fellows are getting deported and hopefully the Prime Minister is thinking will decide not to come. Well, that could give Rishi Sunak the boost in the polls that he so desperately needs. But being so behind on so many other issues could be very problematic, particularly as one ace that the Prime Minister thinks he has up his sleeve is pushing leaving the ECHR on the Conservatives' manifesto. Well, actually, this poll of GB News viewers suggests that the majority would like to stay in the ECHR. So perhaps that trump card isn't quite as valuable as the Prime Minister had thought.
OK, Olivia Utley there for us in Westminster. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, in a landmark legal ruling, the disgraced Hollywood film producer Harvey Weinstein has had his 2020 New York rape conviction overturned because of a mistake made by the trial judge.
Yes, the court found he did not receive a fair trial after the judge called witnesses whose accusations were not part of the case against him. Weinstein was found guilty of raping and sexually assaulting 2 women, but is now entitled to a retrial.
Earlier, we spoke to showbiz reporter Stephanie Tecci.
A big blow to victims of sexual assault and also the victims who bravely stood and took part in the court cases. You know, for many of these women coming forward and telling their stories of, you know, allegedly being assaulted by Harvey Weinstein was not an easy task for them. So even women, including Ashley Judge, an actress, she's come out now and she said this is an act of institutional betrayal. Because what it was, when Harvey Weinstein was sentenced in 2020, party. Many people saw that as actually a victory for the Me Too movement. You know, finally he's been locked away. He's not going to be a free man, so he's still already in prison, serving another sentence for 16 years. But the fact that now this has been overturned, actually, it's said to a lot of women, actually, your stories don't matter, even if you're going to court to talk about it. With Harvey Weinstein, in his defence, his team are quite happy with this verdict because it means actually he can actually now go on trial and have his say, because during the trial he didn't really get a chance to say his side of the story. So now if there is going to be a retrial, he will get to say what happened in these kind of situations that he's been accused of.
I mean, but for a retrial, if we see one in New York, for the victims, that's going to be very difficult, isn't it? Having to rehash everything that they say they've been through.
It is, and I think a lot of them have lost faith in the system because, you know, you've convicted this man for 23 years. Many people were celebrating because they thought this is the situation over, he's been locked away. But now you've got the highest court in New York coming out saying, actually, we've made an error in such a very delicate case like that. I think a lot of victims have now lost support and hope in the system. But you know, from what's come out, the statements that have come out from the courts, they say they do still want to honour victims, but the law is the law. Even someone like Harvey Weinstein, the public already have made their opinion about him, but he is entitled to a fair trial.
But this is the problem. If they've said this isn't a fair trial, and as you say, the public have got their view on it all, how does he then get it? It's going to be a retrial. How is that going to be fair?
Well, this is why they've kind of shot themselves in the foot here, because it was a tight verdict. It was 4-3 in order to have this court ruling to be brought back to trial. But the problem is now people know Harvey Weinstein's story, and I think a lot of juries, even if you got them from all over the world, they've already made up their minds. So for someone like Harvey Weinstein, it's going to be very hard to give him a fair trial. The only victory, I think, for Harvey Weinstein here is that he's going to manage to say his side of the story. But it means as well less victims. If there is a retrial, there'll be less victims who will be able to come forward, because none of their stories have been stood up in a court of evidence. So it's going to be quite hard.
OK, well, at 12 minutes past 8, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom.
Well, the world's first personalised mRNA jab for melanoma is being used in the UK. A British teacher was the first person to get the jab. It's being described as a groundbreaking clinical trial.
I had any fear because by doing the trial, I feel like I'm actively doing something to give it a kicking, basically.
A 13-year-old girl has been charged with 3 counts of attempted murder after 2 teachers and a pupil were stabbed at a Man Valley school in Wales on Wednesday. The teachers and pupil have now been released from hospital after being treated for stab wounds.
Vice-Chancellors from 24 leading universities have been warned by MI5 that foreign states are targeting British institutions to undermine national security. Well, the government and security services are worried that cutting-edge research could be targeted by foreign states.
Should we take a look at the weather?
Yeah, I mentioned that.
With Annie.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another fairly cloudy and rather cool day, and there's a few showers around for some. But for the time being, should stay fairly dry and bright through the rest of the morning, particularly across north and western areas of the country. Clouds going to bubble up, though, as we head towards lunchtime and the risk of showers starts to develop. Though I think many areas across the north should stay fairly dry. Now, towards the south, we start to see cloud thicken through this afternoon across many areas of Wales, into parts of the Midlands and across the south coast ahead of this showery band of rain that will push up northwards throughout tonight. And temperatures will be well below average for the time of year. So another fairly cool day today. Cloud will tend to fade away across northern areas through this evening, so it will be a clear and dry night once again across many areas of northern England, Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, and there is a risk of a further frost for Saturday morning. Across the south, though, cloud will continue to thicken as this band of showery rain continues to move northwards, but that will introduce some milder air, so it's not going to be quite as cold across southern areas of England and Wales through this evening. Now, it will be a bright but cold start across the north on Saturday. The best of the sunshine is likely to be in the morning. I think as you head towards the afternoon, cloud will bubble up once again, and there's a risk of a few showers, but again, most areas should stay dry. Across the Midlands, though, cloud will really thicken. It's going to be quite a dull afternoon, and temperatures will be suppressed. And in the south, any brighter spells that develop could pep off a few showers.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, some good news this morning. It is the final day to see how your next holiday could be on us, with your chance to win a Greek cruise for two, £10,000 in cash and luxury travel gifts.
Yes, add that all up and it's a prize worth more than £20,000 and it could be yours. Here's how.
It's the final day to see how you could win our biggest prize so far. With thanks to Variety Cruises, a family company sailing since 1942, you have the chance to win a £10,000 7-night small boat cruise for two. With flights, meals, excursions and drinks included, your next holiday could be on us. Plus, you'll also win £10,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer sizzle. And we'll pack you off with these luxury travel gifts. Hurry, as lines close today. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. today. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed.
On the dad jokes, not heard this one before, from Mark. My dad threw my mum out because she kept burning the toast. He was lactose intolerant.
Oh, yes, very good. Ha, ha, ha.
That's not bad, I think.
No, you were quite impressed by that one,
Quite impressed by that one. So there you go.
There are a few more. We'll need to dig them out because there's just so many messages coming through. But do keep them coming in, those dad jokes. It's all because the Prince of Wales made a cracking dad joke yesterday, didn't he?
He did.
In fact, we've got the script here, which we can do for you. So, knock, knock.
Who's there?
The interrupting cow.
The interrupting cow. I see.
Very good.
Anyway, we'll show you more and show you how he did it better in a couple of minutes.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Leading motoring organisation has called for all new drivers to be banned from giving lifts to friends for 6 whole months after passing their tests.
Yes, the AA says around 5,000 people every year are killed and seriously injured in crashes involving at least one young motorist. Graduated driving licences introduced with limitations imposed on a period of time after a driver passes their test. So a two-tier system.
Well, is this sensible or yet more ageism when it comes to regulating our habits in the United Kingdom? Let's speak to Quentin Wilson, a motoring journalist and transport campaigner. Really interested to get your thoughts on this, Quentin. There are a lot of people who instinctively will say this is state overreach. This is telling adults that they can't do something that they've done for generations. What's your view?
Well, look, the recent accident with the convertible Mini where people were twerking in the back, this is due to driver education. The person in control of that car really should have told the passengers just to buckle up and stay still. We're not teaching kids to drive properly. We expect them to do all this stuff below the dashboard, grinding of gears, hazard perception, positioning of car in this very, very small time window when we should be doing it from school age, teaching hazard perception. So I've been a patron of an organisation called Young Driver, who's delivered 1.4 million lessons to 11 to 17-year-olds on private land with ADI qualified instructors with dual controls. And the rate for that group is 4%. The national average is 20%. So look, we can do this, we can reduce these fatalities if we teach kids earlier about road safety.
Is this an issue, frankly, with teenage boys and showing off?
The testosterone does always seem to come through, doesn't it?
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together. For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
8:21, good morning to you. Just want to address this poll because now people are really commenting on gbnews.com/yoursay, saying they don't believe the poll. And where's the poll from and who's done the poll? And so
who's been asked?
Let me just explain. It was conducted by JL Partners, so an independent company, and it was 518 recent and current GB News viewers. So that's who was asked. Now, how they select these people, who's contacting them, I don't know how the minutiae of all that works. But whenever there's polls, whatever poll you read, people are contacted and say, you know, we're doing this poll, would you like to contribute? Now, what's interesting about this one, and why it's quite damning, is that you would imagine, and it would be presumed, that a majority of GB News viewers and listeners may prefer, let's bring the graphic up, may prefer the Conservative Party. So although it's a smaller gap than you're seeing in other polls, like the YouGov poll yesterday has got a 25% gap between the two, it's still an 11% gap amongst current or recent GB News viewers. So that's who's conducting the poll. So there you go, for all of those who are messaging about it.
And we'll just run you through some of these findings. GB News viewers trust Labour more, apparently, with the cost of living, NHS and housing. 7 and 10 think that the government is not tough enough when it comes to dealing with crime. 2/3 of GB News viewers think the government should spend more on the NHS. And 3/4 of GB News viewers think that immigration is too high. 18% say it's about right.
All right, there you go. Let's move on to the Prince of Wales, should we? Because we need something to smile about. And actually, what a lovely thing it must have been if you're at this particular school that was shocked yesterday when he made a surprise visit, turned up out the blue in the West Midlands.
Yeah, what a lovely surprise. This was after 12-year-old Freddie Hadley from Sandwell wrote a letter to Prince William inviting him to see his school's mental health campaign. Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker was there.
It's not every day you're pulled out of class to meet a prince, but for St Michael's High School students yesterday, that's exactly what happened.
When did you find out he was coming to your school?
Like 10 minutes ago.
Bit of a shock.
Yes.
We just can't believe that someone so important has turned up to the West Midlands to see, 1,200 children. They would never get this opportunity again, and we're just a little bit shell-shocked that somebody so famous has turned up today.
Prince William's visits to the West Midlands was sparked last October when 12-year-old Freddie Hadley invited him to come and learn about the school's mental health campaign. Freddie's letter was posted on X, and to his surprise, William personally tweeted back on World Mental Health Day. He apologised for not being able to visit, but asked pupils to keep up their important work. Fast forward to yesterday, and Freddie got his wish.
Seeing him walking down, I was like, I cannot wrap my head around this. It was like a good thing I didn't get told, because obviously it wouldn't be such as a big surprise. But when I seen him, I was like, gosh, this is like once in a lifetime chance for sure.
The pair sat down for the all-male Matrix project, which runs the Am I Manly Enough campaign, tackling the stigma around male mental health. William said he realised his passions to solve homelessness and addiction were both connected to mental health problems, which is why he's committed to solving that too. He said boys and men need to talk more about their feelings.
The suicide rate in young men is just terrifying, and I wanted to do something about it.
The group broadcasts a local radio show with fun segments which William was all too happy to take part in.
I've been asked to produce a dad joke, so I'm kind of trying to channel Jack Whitehall, because most of the jokes are pretty dad-like. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow. No. That's what I hear a lot at home at the moment.
In a bizarre turn of events, comedian Jack Whitehall was happy with his royal badge of honour, tweeting, "Rinsed by the future king." The Prince of Wales spent time shaking hands with as many pupils as possible before he left. He was impressed by St Michael's whole school approach to mental health. It's understood these pupils are more inclined to open up about their feelings, successfully breaking down stigmas and paving the way for happier and healthier futures. Cameron Walker, GB News.
Oh, it's so lovely seeing all their faces, isn't it?
So pleased to see
Oh, they're
him.
so excited.
Well, you would be.
Oh, there you go.
Isn't it funny? And I sort of don't know why.
Well, he's royalty, isn't he?
Well, yeah, but I don't know what it is about him. But I'd be thrilled to meet him,
me
or
too.
Catherine.
Well, he's just so lovely, isn't he? He comes across so lovely. As does Catherine. Yeah. So we'd be delighted, and they certainly were as well. And what a star Freddie is.
He's very good.
He's also
very
a standout.
Good. Held his own, because I'd be a
I'd be a wreck as well. But no, he was very, very sweet. And good on him. He got a result there, didn't he? He got the prince to the school.
And I'll tell you what, that's something for life, isn't it? I mean, look at VT and all the rest of it. You know, in all the papers, there's a picture of him with the future king, you know, which he'll have for life now.
I'll never forget
When he's a
it.
right old fella, he'll be there with that picture. It's great.
Oh,
Fantastic.
it's lovely. So thank you to Cameron Walker for bringing us that story. But do stay with us, because Paul Coit will be back with all of the latest sports news.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding on the A1 in Tyne Wear. There's a lane closed northbound where someone's broken down between junction 73 and 74 between the Consett turnoff at Gateshead and Newcastle, causing delays towards and over the Bladen Bridge. The M25 in Hertfordshire is blocked anti-clockwise where a car caught fire between junctions 20 and 19 from Kings Langley to Watford. There are queues from junction 21 for the M1 and clockwise delays past the scene. On the M25 in Essex, there's a lane closed on the anti-clockwise exit at junction 30 for the A13, where someone's broken down, causing delays heading away from the Dartford tunnels from junction 31 at West Thurrock. On the M25 in Kent, the inside lanes closed clockwise for emergency repairs, just off the junction 5 for the M26, causing delays. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests, and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from Thursday the 2nd of May,
The people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections.
we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
With the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from Thursday the 2nd of May at midnight on GB News.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to breakfast. It's sport time and Paul Coit is here with us. What do you want to talk about first?
Brighton 0, Manchester City
18.
No,
4.
close.
4.
Yeah. See, the thing is, once you do the inflection up, it could be any score, but all you know is that they've won.
Yeah.
But it was 4-0, and they were very good yesterday. And Manchester City, I mean, I've been saying it all along, they're doing what they do. Towards the end of the season, they win. And it looks, well... It's very tight at the top. It is.
How many points between them and Arsenal?
It's one, but they've got a game in hand. So Arsenal are top. They've got 77 points. Played 34. Manchester City have played 33 and are on 76. So Man City are away at Forest at the weekend. Arsenal away at Tottenham Hotspur. So obviously they won't get any points there, will they, Arsenal?
No, they might not, but Manchester City against Forest,
you would think so. You would think so. Liverpool, though, I mean, they're not out of it. I mean, everybody's saying, oh, Liverpool, they're done for, but they're on 74 points. So, and they've played 34, so they could put a little run together. It's very tight. It's very exciting. So that's how things are looking at the moment. But Man City back certainly on form and doing what they do at the moment. Arne. What have we decided on, Ellie?
Arne. I think it's with the consensus.
Arne Slot seems to be most definitely the next manager of Liverpool once Jurgen Klopp goes. Klopp for Slot. This is what he said. He's the current manager of Feyenoord. It seems clear to me that I would like to work there. I don't know whether that's lost in translation there from Dutch to English, but it doesn't sound a lot of gobbledygook. Or double Dutch, some would say. But... All I can say is that the clubs are in negotiations and I'm in the waiting room. That makes a little more sense. So it seems that something's going on and they're probably working out what this package is going to be as far as pay towards Feyenoord should he move over. So that's where we are at the moment.
OK.
So it looks like that's going to happen.
I was just, as you say that, I just thought I'd Google some Slot jokes.
Right, yeah.
Just to make
so we've got machine, when I said he's a machine.
Yeah, but unfortunately...
There's not a list of Slot jokes?
They're not really appropriate.
Slotting in. OK. Right, fine.
So it's probably best we leave that there.
So should things go bad for him, then maybe you can start throwing those in.
Yeah, if it starts going bad.
Right. Man United, should I tell you about what's going on there?
Yeah, what's going on with Ineos?
Budget, aren't they?
Well, this is interesting. I mean, there's a lot of companies, aren't they? Cost-cutting, left, right and centre. This is what they've done for Manchester United, which I think is a lovely thing that they've always done in the past for their staff. It's about 1,100 staff. So when they go to the Cup final, which they did last year, they get 2 tickets. This is a lovely thing. Two tickets for the Cup final. Travel to and from Wembley, so return travel there. It sounds like I'm doing a quiz show. Pre-match lunch, after party, hotel in London. Ineos have come in and gone, can't be doing any of that. So they will offer them 1 ticket, but it'll cost you 20 quid on the coach to go, and that's it. So cost cutting, so staff... Whether they're very happy about that, I doubt. But it's a nice thing that they do. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But you know what?
It's always the first thing to go, the parties.
But if you think of what a player... this is the thing that would always come up. What a player would earn compared to what that would cost is a lot, though, isn't it? 1,100. Yeah. So it's probably about half an hour's wages for many players.
Well, it could well be. It could well be. Now, Luke Littler.
Oh, yes.
Now, what's all this about him getting booed? Was it good-natured or not?
Yeah, I think so. You know what it's like with anybody in this country. If they do well, everybody loves them, and then there's a point where it all turns. Where he was in Liverpool, he was playing in the Premier League of Darts yesterday. Did very well, but playing in Liverpool, he's a Manchester United fan.
Right.
So he got booed. And as he was walking through, I mean, he's only 17, but I mean, they were still booing him. He was giving it all the... I think there we are.
Yeah.
He's reacting. He's doing all this 2-0 because Everton beat Liverpool 2-0. But I don't know whether he's thinking that, well, actually, half of this Everton is in Liverpool as well. So maybe the Everton fans softened to him, but the Reds fans did not. So that's what he was doing. So he was giving it the big one, but he was very good yesterday.
I don't blame him for having for fighting back.
Exactly. If they're giving him stick, then give it back a little bit. So 2-0. So he's not really endeared himself to Liverpool fans, but probably has to the Everton fans. Finally, a little golf from Louisiana, from New Orleans. The Louisiana course, the TPC Louisiana. Now, there's Louisiana. There's animals. Well, I say animals on the course.
Oh,
and you've got to be very careful. Any idea what they could be?
Alligators.
Alligators. Have a look at this. Look at this. So going up to play, about to play your tee shot.
Oh.
Look at this fella. Look at this fella. How would you feel? I'd run a mile.
Yeah, so would I.
He's only one of the smaller ones. There was a legendary gator with 3 legs. Do you know what his nickname was? You're going to be quicker. It's going to be tricky.
No, God, I don't know.
Tripod, they used to call him.
That's very good.
Tripod, he's still around, but that's a little, well... That's a little
he's
one.
taking his time. He's quite relaxed.
So they're thinking, don't. So he's just going to practice. Everybody seems very calm about this. Especially the gator. I mean, what would you do if you were playing golf and then an alligator started coming?
No, because it's one of those things, they're walking very slowly like that, but if they want to move, they can move, can't they?
Isn't that when you have to do the diagonal run?
Oh, I don't know.
Or is that? I'm not really sure.
That's with a gun.
I'd find myself in a situation like that thinking, I'm being chased by a lion or an alligator. Which one is it I do the diagonal run for? Which one is it I keep still with? I really don't know. But anyway,
I'd be in the golf buggy.
Yeah, that's it. That's the answer. Golf buggy with doors and just doing completely... But anyway, scared the life out of me. That's what happens. That's the Zurich Classic, which is going on in Louisiana at the moment.
Right.
And interestingly, in Switzerland, they have the Louisiana Classic. Work that one out.
Hold on, well, it's not in Switzerland, though, is it?
No, it's the Zurich Classic, but it's in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a sponsor. I don't think it's actually, Zurich.
I'm very confused.
You know what? You were confused the moment I mentioned tripod. So
this is it. I know.
Thank you, Paul Coit.
Thank you. Have a lovely weekend.
Took me straight back to that. Do you remember that BBC series for kids called The Tripods, based on books? It was back in the 1980s.
I don't remember The Tripods.
The Tripods, yeah. It was a great...
three-legged?
It was a sci-fi thing.
Right.
And it was great.
Why were they called the tripods then?
Because they were big machines, big tripod alien things.
Wow. Never got a second series?
No, I think they had 3 series.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Glimpse into my childhood.
It's sci-fi, so of course you were.
I loved it, yeah.
Yeah.
Loved it. I was only about 12, 13, I think.
Not a lot has changed, really.
No.
Don't expect it on Netflix soon, that one.
No.
No, I don't think now the production values would hold up. Put it that way.
Well, no.
No.
Do stay with us, though, because our production values are sticking.
Excellent.
And they're excellent, yes. Nigel Nelson and Claire Pearsall are going to be back too to go through all the papers. That's next.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
King Charles is well known for his views on climate change, and apparently he's now taking steps to make sure that his Sandringham estate is more eco-friendly. Well, it's been reported that the King is planning to have 2,000 solar panels installed on that estate, and it's set to make the estate largely self-sufficient with a supply of its own green electricity. Well, joining me now is former Royal correspondent, the absolute legend, that is Michael Cole. Michael, twice in 2 days I feel blessed. Look, King Charles has long been talking up his eco-credentials. Some may uncharitably compare him to Greta Thunberg in a tweed suit. It's one thing, however, to be self-sufficient in energy, but got to be said, solar panel farms, they're hardly eco-friendly, are they? They destroy environments. What's your take?
I certainly agree with that. The King has indeed, as you say, Martin, and good afternoon to you, applied for planning permission. Now, this is going to be a bit of a mini solar farm, 2,000 solar panels on a site of 2 hectares. And as he has the Sandringham estate, 20,000 acres, 4 acres isn't going to be very much, and it's nowhere near where he lives at Sandringham House. Now, these things, which we're seeing on the screen, are hugely controversial up here. A monster one is being planned on the borders between Suffolk and Cambridge, and the people there really despise it. As they say quite rightly, is this grade A agricultural land being turned over to this semi-industrial use and spoiling the look of the countryside and changing it in a negative way.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Time to go through the papers then, 8:41, with our senior political commentator, Mr Nigel Nelson, and former government adviser, Ms Claire Pearsall. Good morning to you both.
Morning, you two.
Nigel, let's have a look at Donald Trump, should we, on the Telegraph this morning?
If we must, yes, certainly. Big wrangling going on in America over whether or not Trump can claim presidential immunity from prosecution. So this is this is over his objections to the way the election was lost to him back in 2020. And what it could do, the most important thing is, if they keep arguing about it, that it could put this case back beyond the November election, so he doesn't have that hanging over him. But
and should he then be elected, he could be prosecuted, but then give himself
immunity.
Pardon,
then he can pardon himself as president. Yeah. So you've got several cases going on. You've got the Stormy Daniels case going on in tandem to this. But the kind of things they're arguing is the points of law are. Could a president, if they've got immunity, assassinate a political rival, or could they stage a coup to take over the country? I mean, it's that kind of stuff. But, I mean, I suppose the serious bit is that if you establish that a head of state, the American head of state, has immunity, it puts him on a par with the king, because, of course, our king can't break his own laws. So it's the same kind of idea. But it's an interesting legal wrangle, although the serious side of it is what will happen to Trump at the end of it.
Do you think it's going to be a fairly tight call by the Supreme Court or not?
I think it will be. I think that there are always going to be those detractors, but I suppose if you have to just look at the rule of law, it's going to be very, very tricky to have the president of a country effectively being able to pardon himself or herself from offences. And it just brings into question the judiciary system in America, the presidential system. But the one thing it is doing is not denting the support of Donald Trump. The more he's in the papers, the more he is out there speaking, the more people seem to love him. And it doesn't matter even if he ended up in jail. I think that people would still be supportive of their president from behind bars looking after their country. It is just the most bizarre thing. I don't think any of us had this on a bingo card, that you would have Donald Trump being called into court over hush money to an adult star, to, you know, the insurrection on January 6th. It's so strange you couldn't write it. And to look at the decision-making process, I don't think there's going to be anybody that's going to call this correctly. I think that it is really going to be down to those people making the decision. It's going to be a bizarre one.
See, what is it? Is it 6-3 in the Supreme Court at the moment in favour of...
6-3,
yeah.
In favour of the Republicans.
4-3, sorry, 4-3. Yeah.
But that doesn't guarantee him success, actually.
No, it doesn't. And also, they've broken down by political lines. And because they're political appointees, that makes the whole court system a bit weird. I mean, you know, we think British politics is odd at the moment, but I think if you look across the Atlantic, it's even stranger.
Yeah, I think in the history books are going to look at this time as a very odd time, I think. Right, let's have a look at The Guardian and Harvey Weinstein, Claire.
Yeah, I mean... You can understand why you would want to get the process correctly looked at, but it does now call into question the whole sort of Me Too movement. This is now being his conviction overturned on a real technicality, that one of the people's testimony that were put in were not the original complainants. So, and it was also sort of statute barred, so you were outside the statute of limitations on that individual. So you've got this decision, which was a 4-3 against in New York, to get this overturned, and it's going to bring into question all of the other trials that he's been through. Now, he is currently serving 16 years in California for the offence that he was convicted of there, so he isn't going to come out of prison. But it does bring into question some of the testimony that was also given in that trial, because this same individual has also given the same testimony over there. So there are some real issues. What I hope does not happen is it doesn't discourage women from coming forward, because that was one of the big things out of the Me Too movement, is that women suddenly found that they had a voice and that they would be believed. And I think it would be terrible if that was all reversed and women weren't being believed. They were put in the background and not listened to, and I think that we would move backwards in a really bad way. I just think this is really important, and we lose sight of the fact that these victims were abused by a man in power. It
just seems extraordinary in a way. I mean, when you look at it in black and white, it looks like a glaring error.
Yeah.
So how on earth could that not have been spotted at the time?
Well, I mean, it's not so much it wasn't spotted, it's the appeal process which says he didn't get a fair trial. And, I mean, I think everything that Claire said is absolutely right about the effect on the Me Too movement and the women survivors of what happened. But justice has got to be seen to be done and to be fair, and if that conviction was unsafe, it is right to hold a retrial. Doesn't mean he'll get off. I mean, the retrial might find him guilty again, but I think that if there are flaws in the way the case was handled, it is quite right that they run it again.
Is it possible for Harvey Weinstein to have a fair trial, though? In terms
well, that's the thing now, isn't it?
Retrial.
Well, that's the argument over anybody who's actually in the public eye. Yeah. Can he get a fair trial? And of course, he's actually in prison in California over a completely different rape. So he's got previous in that sense. But I think you always encounter that difficulty with famous people, especially if you know about their background. I mean, ideally, jurors shouldn't know anything about the background of the people that they're judging.
But it is going to be very, very difficult, because this was all over the media for such a long time. It was 4 years ago that the court case came up, so everybody has looked into this. So I don't think you can have a fair trial, but that's not to be said that he shouldn't still go in front of a jury of his peers. That's the way the judicial system works, and we have to stick with it.
Yeah.
Should we talk about a cunning plan to save the world?
Yeah. we do love a bit of baldrick, don't we? And this is about turnips. And it's the...
Of course it is.
Baldrick actor Tony Robinson says that to combat climate change, the one thing that we would be able to eat are turnips.
Oh, I like
because
a turnip.
I like a turnip as well.
OK.
But you wouldn't want to eat one every day, would you?
Probably not.
It's a food that you have occasionally. it's fine. I don't think we could sustain ourselves, but apparently it is a very adaptable, climate-friendly food source. And in fact, Therese Coffey, when she was Defra Secretary, told everybody when there was a food shortage...
Must eat turnips.
Must eat turnips.
But bear in mind, if the end of the world comes, the only thing that will actually survive is cockroaches. So we've got to hope the cockroaches like the turnips.
We're not selling this very well, are we? Mashed turnips, obviously, neeps are very tasty, but it's not something that I'd have every week.
You can roast them.
Very
nice roasted, slice and roast. Yeah.
OK, well, maybe that's it. I need to investigate some turnip recipes.
This is what we
push
need
comes to shove.
No, please don't.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't mind about that. Nigel, what's this going through a rough patch in the sun?
Well, there's a million potholes in this country, so understandably people want to protest about them. And what's happened in one street in Chelmsford in Essex is that the street was called Patchinghall Lane.
I know Patchinghall Lane.
Do you?
I do. I was born
do you
in
know what it's
Chelmsford.
now called?
Pothole Lane.
You're almost there. Patch the holes lane.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
So they've got loads of potholes there, and someone said, right, can we do something about them? And it is the thing. There's the absolute scourge of communities everywhere. That when local government always says there are the 3 Ps, which are planning, parking, and potholes. Those are the things they must fix.
So the problem with Patchinghall Lane is it's got 2 really big schools on it and a big hospital at the bottom. So they'll be very concerned about people being hurt, I imagine.
Yeah, going across one of those on an ambulance wouldn't be much fun, would it?
Oh, yeah, no, it wouldn't, would it?
Or a bike on the way to school. And you can see the cycle lane there. Yeah.
It's got to be done. I tell you what, you've been a local councillor.
I have.
Haven't you? Is this... What the problem seems to be, well, it's funding, but that means councils are patching rather than properly filling.
Yes,
But that never works.
It never works because the surface just breaks up again the minute you have traffic going back over it, or it's a bit wet or a bit cold, then it breaks up. But the problem is when you need to fix potholes properly by ripping up the road surface and starting again, which of course you need temporary traffic lights, road closures. That also irritates people. You're never going to win.
I think people would have patience with that, though, wouldn't they?
To an extent.
Fix potholes.
To an extent. If they fixed it and they fixed it properly, there was a local road near us which had to be shut, was beautifully re-tarmacked, and it was stunning to drive on. It was brilliant.
Stunning.
It really was.
Yes,
it had been bone-crunching for years and years and years, and it was beautiful. And then, of course, the inevitable happened. There was a utility problem, and it had to be dug up again. And now the surface is broken, and you can just see the potholes going to reform. And we are particularly bad at looking after our roads.
But is that, in terms of responsibility, would that not fall under the utility company?
Yes, it does, but they will have put it back to a certain standard, which is not maybe as great. Councils can then force the utilities companies back to resurface it properly, but if they have done it to the specifications given at the time, under the licence of digging it up,
so we need to
then you can do it.
We need to up the specs on it all. I mean, that is always so annoying. The minute you get a nicely laid road, then suddenly you have to dig up a part, and then you've got a permanent track down it.
And it never matches up properly.
Never matches.
So you've got this little rut on one side, but it is one of the biggest issues. But as soon as you stick some temporary traffic lights up, you watch your local social media just go into meltdown.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had it recently, and it's just every other post on the local Facebook page is about the traffic lights.
Oh, you can't win.
You can't, but we need to fix potholes. We just need to do it quickly. And that's the one thing we don't do.
Yeah, no, it's true. Can we talk about sambas, please?
Yes. Now, it's always...
trainers, Adidas trainers.
Adidas trainers. And this is always bad when you've got a politician wearing something fashionable. And this, in that case, it was Rishi Sunak sporting a pair of sambas. And now we've got Nigel Farage of this parish wearing a pair of gazelles. So Adidas Gazelle trainers in a photograph. And the brands don't like this, and everybody then go and point it out that a politician is wearing a particular brand of shoe or a jacket or indeed music.
Yeah.
And you always get it. I mean, it's like your dad liking something. The minute your dad likes something, the answer to it is no. But famous music ones are, sort of David Cameron professing to like the Smiths in 2006. Gordon Brown liking the Arctic monkeys.
Oh, yeah, but that was made up, wasn't it?
Well, they do make it up. I mean, that's the trouble. They make up football teams and things like that. And then if someone questions them, they never get it right. And certainly on the fashion front, I mean, I think that William Hague ruined the baseball cap by turning it back to front. And I suppose Michael Foot at the Cenotaph ruined the donkey jacket. Because no one would go out in public with one of those again.
This is it. Politicians just need to just dress normally, just pair of normal shoes.
Work shoes.
Just work shoes. He doesn't really need... I mean, Rishi Sunak, you're running the country. You don't need to sit there in a pair of Adidas
I don't know. It's like, you see, I'm wearing trainers as we speak.
Well, maybe you should be running the country.
It's just much more comfortable, unless your shoes are in shot.
But if you're the Prime Minister and the shoes were in shot...
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't be wearing your trainers.
No, it's got a bit of sort of, you know, cool dad vibe about it, which is just everybody laughs at, unfortunately, and, of course, the brand takes a hit.
True. You two are taking a hit because we're leaving you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, you two. We'll take a look at the weather now with Annie.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another fairly cloudy and rather cool day, and there's a few showers around for some. But for the time being, should stay fairly dry and bright through the rest of the morning, particularly across north and western areas of the country. Clouds going to bubble up, though, as we head towards lunchtime and the risk of showers starts to develop. Though I think many areas across the north should stay fairly dry. Now, towards the south, we start to see cloud thicken through this afternoon across many areas of Wales, into parts of the Midlands and across the south coast ahead of this showery band of rain that will push up northwards throughout tonight. And temperatures will be well below average for the time of year. So another fairly cool day today. Cloud will tend to fade away across northern areas through this evening, so it will be a clear and dry night once again across many areas of northern England, Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, and there is a risk of a further frost for Saturday morning. Across the south, though, cloud will continue to thicken as this band of showery rain continues to move northwards, but that will introduce some milder air, so it's not going to be quite as cold across southern areas of England and Wales through this evening. Now, it will be a bright but cold start across the north on Saturday. The best of the sunshine is likely to be in the morning. I think as you head towards the afternoon, cloud will bubble up once again, and there's a risk of a few showers, but again, most areas should stay dry. Across the Midlands, though, cloud will really thicken. It's going to be quite a dull afternoon, and temperatures will be suppressed. And in the south, any brighter spells that develop could pep off a few showers.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Suffolk, the A14 is partly blocked westbound towards Bury St Edmunds by an accident between junctions 46 and 45 from Thurston to Rougham. The queue's almost back to junction 47. Woolpit on the M25 in Hertfordshire. There are anti-clockwise queues after a car caught fire earlier at junction 20 at Kings Langley. The queue's back beyond junction 21, halfway back to junction 22 near St Albans. In London, the A2 is partly blocked westbound by an accident just before the Kidbrooke interchange. There are long delays with queues from the Danson interchange at Bexley Heath. And on the M26 in Kent, there are 4 miles of westbound queues towards the M25. That's after overnight roadworks on the M25, and M26 overran earlier. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win our biggest prize yet. There's an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Plus, courtesy of Variety Cruises, a bespoke 7-night small boat cruise for 2 worth £10,000. With flights, meals, excursions and drinks included, your next holiday could be on us. Choose any one of their 2025 Greek adventures and find your home at sea. We'll also send you packing with these luxury travel gifts. Hurry, as lines close on Friday. today. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. It's 9 o'clock on Friday, the 26th of April. Today, tensions are high in Scotland as Humza Yousaf faces a vote of no confidence after ripping up his coalition agreement with the Greens.
Indeed, well, this is an extraordinary period of Scottish politics. Humza Yousaf due to speak in Glasgow later today. Will he come out fighting, or will, as his detractors say, it only be a matter of when, not if, he goes?
A poll of GB News viewers has revealed that Labour are 11 points ahead of the Conservatives. Is this another worrying sign for the Prime Minister?
A depressing poll result yet again for Rishi Sunak, but with a glimmer of hope. The Conservatives are more trusted on immigration. Can Rishi Sunak make that work to his advantage?
Also today, the disgraced mogul caught by the Me Too movement, Harvey Weinstein, has his 2020 conviction overturned.
A revolutionary new jab is bringing hope of a possible cure to skin cancer as it begins trials in the UK.
And Prince William surprises students in the West Midlands during a school trip to support mental health. And he did a bit of a stand-up routine while he was there.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting Carol. No.
Morning, it's a cloudy start today, but will there be any more sunshine over the weekend? Well, you can find out all the details with me a little later on.
Morning to you, I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News. Mike Sheldon says,
hi,
Stephen, tell Ellie I remember the Tripods kids TV show based on H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. Never watched it properly, but did see it. But as I was older, I turned over the channels.
Yeah, well, it was based on the Tripod trilogy, which is a separate book.
Oh.
So I don't say it wasn't the War of the Worlds thing, though. They had tripod machines as well in War of the Worlds. But it was Claire Pearsall remembered it.
Well, you've got them all going here.
Oh, have I?
Steve, the Tripods was ace for the time. Well worth digging up a copy.
Yeah, might be worth doing that, actually.
Peter says, Stephen, trainers with a suit, you need to sack your style advisors. Nothing looks worse.
Oh, I don't know, because then Nigel says, which is what I always think of, didn't David Tennant make them cool in Doctor Who? He did. He always wore... He wore...
Converse.
Converse.
Yeah. OK, now I understand. Yes, because if David Tennant does it, then you do it. That's the thing. Jennifer says trainers are extremely comfortable, especially if you suffer with foot problems. When Thornbury came on... Oh, I won't read that.
Oh.
But no, I wouldn't be wearing trainers if I were Prime Minister, don't think.
No, well, probably not if you're Prime Minister, to be fair.
But then Rishi Sunak was in his Sambas.
But there's a lot to be said for wearing trainers with a suit if you've got... I mean, it's like I've got to walk a
yeah, but no
quite a
one
long way.
sees you, and I think
No
it's
one sees.
comfort. But I do
It is
think
all
it's
about
different
comfort.
if you're out and about.
I
and
don't
you are
wear
on
fashionable trainers. I just wear comfortable trainers.
Yes, you do.
Thanks.
Well, they do look very comfortable. I'll tell you that.
I'm wearing a brand that I really like and I now buy all my trainers from. And but if anyone's remotely trendy, they laugh at me. No. But there you go.
So, yes, thank you so much for your views. gbnews.com/your say. Do keep them coming in.
Let's head to Scotland now, should we, where tensions are simmering, boiling, I should say, after the Greens revealed they plan to vote against the First Minister, Humza Yousaf, in a vote of no confidence.
Yes, the decision follows the collapse of the SNP's power-sharing deal with the Greens yesterday, leaving Mr Yousaf in charge of a minority government.
Well, the no-confidence motion proposed by the Scottish Conservative leader, Douglas Ross, who branded the SNP leader weak and a failed First Minister.
Well, joining us now from Glasgow is GB News Scotland reporter Tony Maguire. Good to see you this morning, Tony. This is an extraordinary time in Scottish politics, isn't it? And we are expecting to hear from the First Minister a little bit later on today.
Yes, that's correct, Ellie. Certainly this is, you know, I guess the latest in a long line of challenges facing Humza Yousaf. He hasn't exactly had the easiest 13 months since taking over from his predecessor, Nicola Sturgeon, but certainly this is undoubtedly the biggest challenge that he's had to face. Now, yesterday morning, he ended that power-sharing agreement, that confidence and supply agreement with the Green Party here in Scotland. And then just shortly after, First Minister's questions, regular every Thursday at Holyrood, Douglas Ross came out with his vote of no confidence intentions. And then, as the afternoon progressed, we slowly heard from the other leaders, and we've got a bit from them to share with you now.
I can confirm today that on behalf of the Scottish Conservatives, I am lodging a vote of no confidence in Humza Yousaf. He is a failed First Minister. He is unfit for office. Shouldn't this be the end of the road for this weak First Minister?
The SNP have lost their way. They're weak, divided, incompetent and putting party before country. Isn't it time to end the circus and call an election?
There are no circumstances under which the Scottish Liberal Democrats would express confidence in either the First Minister Humza Yousaf or his failing government.
We no longer have confidence in a progressive government in Scotland doing the right thing for climate and nature, so the Scottish Green MSPs will not be supporting Humza Yousaf in a vote of no confidence.
So the question on everyone's lips is what happens next? Well, Humza Yousaf, he's here in Glasgow at Strathclyde University today. He's going to be giving a speech on the labour market and an independent Scotland, yet another one of the independence papers. And indeed, the SNP's Westminster leader, Stephen Flynn, he believes that Humza Yousaf will come out fighting. In fact, only in the last hour, he's come out and said that he doesn't know if he would even stand again if Humza Yousaf is not going to be the leader of the party. And of course, that all-important vote of no confidence likely to happen next week. Does all the power end up in the hands of Ash Regan, the MSP who is essentially ostracised for taking her stance against the Gender Recognition Reform Bill? Indeed, I think we're only maybe part of the way through this saga, but certainly keep it to GB News for the rest of the day, and we will keep you up with all the latest developments.
Yeah, Tony, thanks very much indeed. It will be fascinating to see what the First Minister has to say when he holds that news conference a little bit later on. I mean, there's speculation about saying, well, he's going to resign, he's going to step down. I would doubt it. I could be wrong, but it's not like a politician to do that just like that, is it?
No.
I think he'll fight it, but quite
but for how long will he cling on? Well, stay across GB News all day, as Tony says, and we'll keep you across any developments with that story. Now, a new GB News poll has revealed good news for the Labour Party. According to viewers, they are 11 points ahead of the Conservatives.
While GB News viewers and listeners also trust Labour more with the cost of living, the NHS and housing.
Well, joining us now is GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. And based on the results of this poll, it's a bit of a headache for the Prime Minister.
It is another massive headache for the Prime Minister. Labour leading by 11 points among GB News viewers, who the Prime Minister at least might expect to be more sympathetic to the Conservative cause. On issues like defence, where the Conservatives normally are far ahead, crime as well, tackling crime, the Labour Party is now storming ahead. Another example of Keir Starmer stealing the Conservatives' clothes, taking that centre ground. The only sort of shred of hope for the Prime Minister is that the Conservative Party is still more trusted in this poll on tackling illegal migration. And that is an issue which is almost more important than anything to Brits. It normally comes either first or second on the list of concerns facing the UK. Now, the Prime Minister managed finally to get his Rwanda bill over the line this week. It's now received royal assent, and we can expect to see flights taking off to Rwanda in the next 6 to 10 weeks, barring any last-minute legal challenges. What Rishi Sunak is really, really hoping is that when that happens, he will start to see a boost in the polls. All of those people who care more about immigration than anything else will think, hang on a minute, maybe the Conservatives are the only ones I can trust. That is what Rishi Sunak is banking on right now. All his eggs are pretty much in the Rwanda basket. Will it pay off? Well, we'll have a much clearer idea after the general election, after the local elections next week.
Yes, indeed. Olivia, thanks very much indeed. It's going to be fascinating to see the local elections. We'll have the first results coming through this time next week.
Yeah.
Though it's not like the general election, is it? There'll be a bit more of a drip effect, so we'll be getting them all through the weekend. So we'll keep you up to date, won't we?
Yes, we will. Us next weekend, this time next week.
Now, the Prince of Wales shocked 1,200 pupils yesterday, making a surprise visit to a high school in the West Midlands.
Well, this was after 12-year-old Freddie Hadley from Sandwell wrote a letter to Prince William, inviting him to see his school's mental health campaign. Our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, was there.
It's not every day you're pulled out of class to meet a prince, but for St Michael's High School students yesterday, that's exactly what happened.
When did you find out he was coming to your school?
Like 10 minutes ago.
Bit of a shock.
Yes.
We just can't believe that someone so important has turned up to the West Midlands to see, 1,200 children. They would never get this opportunity again, and we're just a little bit shell-shocked that somebody so famous has turned up today.
Prince William's visits to the West Midlands was sparked last October when 12-year-old Freddie Hadley invited him to come and learn about the school's mental health campaign. Freddie's letter was posted on X, and to his surprise, William personally tweeted back on World Mental Health Day. He apologised for not being able to visit, but asked pupils to keep up their important work. Fast forward to yesterday, and Freddie got his wish.
Seeing him walking down, I was like, I can not wrap my head around this. It was like a good thing I didn't get told, because obviously it wouldn't be such as a big surprise. But when I seen him, I was like, gosh, this is like once in a lifetime chance for sure.
The pair sat down for the all-male Matrix project, which runs the Am I Manly Enough campaign, tackling the stigma around male mental health. William said he realised his passions to solve homelessness and addiction were both connected to mental health problems, which is why he's committed to solving that too. He said boys and men need to talk more about their feelings.
The suicide rate in young men is just terrifying, and I wanted to do something about it.
The group broadcasts a local radio show with fun segments, which William was all too happy to take part in.
I've been asked to produce a dad joke, so I'm kind of trying to channel Jack Whitehall, because most of the jokes are pretty dad-like. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
No.
That's what I hear a lot at home at the moment.
In a bizarre turn of events, comedian Jack Whitehall was happy with his royal badge of honour, tweeting, "Rinsed by the future king." The Prince of Wales spent time shaking hands with as many pupils as possible before he left. He was impressed by St Michael's whole school approach to mental health. It's understood these pupils are more inclined to open up about their feelings, successfully breaking down stigmas and paving the way for happier and healthier futures. Cameron Walker, GB News.
I wonder how many people said, oh, do give our best to Catherine.
Oh, I bet everyone did.
Everybody.
But isn't it good to see him in such good spirits?
Yeah, it is, actually.
It's good to see him out and about.
He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders at the minute. So good on him.
Good job. Yeah, it's good to see him. Now, it's also good to see these two. Britain's Newsroom is coming up at 9:30. Ben Leo and Pip Thompson are here to tell us all about it.
Good morning.
Morning, you two.
Hi.
What's coming up on today's show?
So, of course, we're going to be keeping an eye on Humza Yousaf, the SNP, everything that's going on north of the border. The GB News poll as well, showing quite staggering, actually, showing a boost of support for Labour. But some interesting stories elsewhere. Captain Tom, his house, remember the COVID legend who did multiple laps of his house to raise 40 million for charity. His daughter is selling the property, £2.25 million, minus the spa pool block that she was forced to rip down because she didn't get consent for it. So, yeah, should she be selling the property? I guess.
Well, it's not about that. It's about the suggestion that it's using his name to sell the property, because the brochure explicitly states, you know, one of our greatest memories here is when my father was doing laps of the garden. There's photographs of a bust of Captain Tom in rooms of the house.
And I get it. I get how people think it could be a little bit distasteful, but if you're trying to sell a property and that's a selling point, you just would, wouldn't you?
I just feel a bit sorry for Captain Tom because he did this really good, authentic, genuine thing. He raised a lot of money, but then they shipped him off to Barbados for a holiday, which he enjoyed. But then that's where he apparently got COVID or around that time, and then he passed away. And then all the controversy with the spa block.
Nothing that's happened since with his family changes the fact that he did that wonderful challenge and raised all that money.
No, I agree, but it's kind of been muddied a little bit.
Yeah, it has been. It has been.
Shame. Elsewhere, Pip, the John Lewis stories.
Yeah, this is interesting about people being told questions before they go for their job interviews, so they get that time to prepare, because some of us aren't that great at doing face-to-face interviews, and we get a bit overwhelmed, so you might not show yourself at your best. So is it right that companies start doing this and they give people forewarning of what they're going to ask them? Is it fair?
It's funny because my instinctive reaction is that that's not right. But actually thinking about it, giving PC, have a think about how you want to respond. You can still get the right information out of people. You can still see what sort of person they are, even if you've had time to think about it. Maybe even more so.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. I mean, it's the same old argument about exams and coursework, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's cheating. If you can't handle the pressure and the surprises...
Get out of the kitchen.
Don't apply for the job.
Get out.
Depends what sort of job it is, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Retail, I guess.
Well,
the thing is that some jobs...
I think retail's more skills-based anyway, isn't it?
But there are some situations where you have to think on your feet, and you're not going to be tested on that, are you?
Yeah.
If you've had loads of prep time.
I think with retail, it's intuition, isn't it? And being helpful.
Yeah, I think being able to talk to people goes a long way. Looking someone in the eye, picking up a phone, knocking on a door. I've said loads of times, the amount of people we've had on work experience at my old newspaper who have qualifications coming out their ears, degrees everywhere, but they just can't pick up the phone and say, oh, hello, how are you doing? What's going on?
Yeah, you do get a lot of that.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Ben and Pip, good to see you. We'll see you at 9:30.
Now, today is the final day to see how you could get your next holiday on us, with your chance to win a luxury Greek cruise for two, 10 grand in cash and a whole load of luxury travel gifts as well.
Yes, it's a prize worth over £20,000 and it could all be yours, so don't miss out. Here's all the details you need.
It's the final day to see how you could win our biggest prize so far. With thanks to Variety Cruises, a family company sailing since 1942, you have the chance to win a £10,000 7-night small boat cruise for two. With flights, meals, excursions and drinks included, your next holiday could be on us. Plus, you'll also win £10,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer sizzle. And we'll pack you off with these luxury travel gifts. Hurry, as lines close today. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. today. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come for you, we're going to be talking to Olympic superstar Keely Hodgkinson. That's next.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
Organisations, plural, because there's loads of people doing this, that organisations are charging schools to be part of this odd league table about who's trying to outdo who when it comes to who is more trans inclusive with the kids than the next person. There's something makes me uneasy about this.
Supposing a child comes home and says, you think, oh, I've done well today. He said, well, how have you done? He said, well, I was #1 painter, or I was #1 reader. No, I wasn't. I was made LGBT champion. This is a 4- and 5-year-old. Look, I can understand this, actually, as we develop into the secondary school. I can understand more debates taking place. I cannot understand why we have to thrust it at young children. And I think if you ask the parents, they'd be hostile to it. And what about the role the teacher has to play in all this?
Society has been one way, the pendulum is swinging the other way, and they're pushing it very far in order to kind of proliferate change. Mm-hmm. And this is probably the toughest period in that evolutionary process, because the LGBTQ plus community is saying that you've got to really rage against the machine to get people to listen. Because put it like this now, even this conversation, the whole country is listening, the whole world is listening. These are the kinds of eyeballs and ears they haven't had before. And there's going to be friction. There's going to be a locking of heads in the process to getting to a point where you establish a new equilibrium where they feel more incorporated. Like I've said, the greatest force of allies that the LGBTQ plus community has always had is heterosexual women. What you're moving towards now is doing things that is beginning to turn them from allies into people who feel that, oh, for you to thrive, I'm being deprived, and that's a problem. When they realize you're alienating allies, they will understand you've got to recalibrate to have that kind of understanding between both parties.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, there's considerably less than 100 days to go until the Paris Olympics, and it's going to be an exciting time. I was in Paris not long ago, and talk about the work they're doing, the prep they're doing there is phenomenal. I mean, it is going to be absolutely spectacular. The Olympics always is.
Oh, it always is. There's a lot to look forward to, isn't there?
Yeah, it's
a lot of prep is underway for not only the city of Paris, but for those...
Yeah, I was just going to say, look, if you're watching, you saw the mascot. Now, the mascot is the worst thing I've ever seen.
It looks like a gummy sweet.
It is awful. I don't know what they're thinking of with the mascot. I mean, look at it.
It does look like a little squidgy sweet.
It's like a cheese triangle.
Or a cheese triangle. What is it meant to be? Do we know?
I've no idea.
OK.
Not a lot of thought went into that one. No. But anyway, that is not what Team GB and their superstars are going to be thinking about. Not the mascot. They couldn't give two hoots about the mascot, could they? They've got other things on their minds.
They certainly do. Should we talk to one of them now? This is Keely Hodgkinson. She's 22 years old and she hails from near Manchester. Even went to the same school as England football star Ella Toone. There you go.
Oh, fantastic. Great to see you this morning. You won't care about the mascot, weird as it is. All that prep. I mean, you're only 22. How do you deal with the pressure of being... really one to watch for Team GB?
Well, I'll start with I was just laughing about the mascot. I haven't actually seen it myself, so that was quite funny. But I think the pressure is something of the mind. I think the Olympics for our sport is such a big opportunity. So I'm really excited. Like you said, just over 100 days to go. It's going to come so quickly. And I think it's just a really big opportunity to take, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Keely, how do you compartmentalise in your mind? Because you've got a really busy summer coming up, haven't you? You've got Rome in about 50 days' time in June, right? So you're trying to defend your title there. And then you've also got the Olympics at the end of July to look ahead to. How do you train for both of those things and keep your head in it all?
Well, luckily I have a really great coach that plans everything for me, so I can just turn up to training and do my absolute best. But yeah, like I said, I think that there's plenty of opportunities there to give us defending my title. I think it's going to be really fun. In my career, I'd like to get as many medals as possible. I've said that before, so I just see it as another opportunity to try and do that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the last Olympics, I think it was a silver you got, wasn't it? You've got to be aiming for gold this time round. I mean, to have a silver and a gold would be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it definitely would be, especially I didn't expect my career to go like this so early on. So we have spent the last 3 years trying my absolute best to make these marginal gains to hopefully walk away with what will be an Olympic dream of mine, gold medal, yeah.
And what's the training like at the moment, Keely? Is it really ramping up, or do you actually start to rest a little bit more before you enter these big competitions?
The best way I could explain it is the sessions get a little bit more intense, a little bit faster. But we do knock down how much we run just because of how intense we are running. So we just come back from a training camp in South Africa for the last month, and that's been really, really hard. So I'm looking forward to getting some racing going now, especially that I missed the indoor season. So it's I'm raring to go for this outdoor season, yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've got your head in the right place then, which I guess is a really important part of this.
Yeah, I think calm and composure is my best friend at some points. So, yeah, I think that's the best way to go with this Olympic year, and hopefully we can do a good job.
Well, calm and composed you are, and you're going to do a fantastic job, we are sure. We're all behind you. Keely Hodgkinson, really good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, she's a superstar, isn't she?
She's a superstar. Atherton's a lovely place as well. Oh. Anyway, right, that's it from us. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another fairly cloudy and rather cool day, and there's a few showers around for some. But for the time being, should stay fairly dry and bright through the rest of the morning, particularly across north and western areas of the country. Clouds going to bubble up, though, as we head towards lunchtime, and the risk of showers starts to develop. Though I think many areas across the north should stay fairly dry. Now, towards the south, we start to see clouds thicken through this afternoon across many areas of Wales, into parts of the Midlands and across the south coast, ahead of this showery band of rain that will push up northwards throughout tonight. And temperatures will be well below average for the time of year. So another fairly cool day today. Cloud will tend to fade away across northern areas through this evening, so it will be a clear and dry night once again across many areas of northern England, Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, and there is a risk of a further frost for Saturday morning. Across the south, though, cloud will continue to thicken as this band of showery rain continues to move northwards, but that will introduce some milder air, so it's not going to be quite as cold across southern areas of England and Wales through this evening. Now, it will be a bright but cold start across the north on Saturday. The best of the sunshine is likely to be in the morning. I think as you head towards the afternoon, cloud will bubble up once again, and there's a risk of a few showers, but again, most areas should stay dry. Across the Midlands, though, cloud will really thicken. It's going to be quite a dull afternoon, and temperatures will be suppressed. And in the south, any brighter spells that develop could pep off a few showers.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding in North Yorkshire. The A64 is partly blocked each way by an accident at Stockton-on-the-Forest, causing delays. In Suffolk, the A14 is partly blocked westbound towards Bury St Edmunds by an accident between junctions 46 and 45 from Thurston to Rougham. The queues towards there are almost back to junction 47. Woolpit on the M25 in Hertfordshire. There are long anti-clockwise delays towards junction 20 at Kings Langley after a car caught fire earlier. All lanes are back open, but queues are back beyond junction 21A, halfway back to 22 near St Albans. And on the M26 in Kent, there are 4 miles of westbound queues towards the M25 after overnight roadworks on on the M25 and M26 overran earlier, and that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 p.m.
So J. Cole, who is a rapper, says that he felt terrible after releasing a song aimed at fellow rapper Kendrick Lamar and vowed to pull the track off streaming services. He said, "I ain't gonna lie to y'all. The past 2 days felt terrible," he told an audience at the Dreamville Festival in North Carolina. "I damn near had a relapse," he said.
There's a lot of young people, especially, you know, that would look at that and they will take it not just as entertainment.
It doesn't happen in any other form of art that I can think of. This is not happening in country music, is it?
Well, it's the same problem in both cases, isn't it? Who's doing the regulating? And surely it's each case on its merits, isn't it? You don't just ban a genre.
Why is there such a lot of hatred for a man who usually would have trash-talked back to stand up and say, you know, this doesn't sit well with me and I love this guy? If we look at, I think his name was Cody Fisher, the semi-professional footballer who died in a club because someone stabbed him. Now, he was stabbed because he stepped on someone's trainers. This is the level of ego we're seeing from a lot of young men who don't have any output of being able to channel that energy, and a lot of it is stemming from cultures like football, hip-hop, these sorts of things. So I'm just saying it's refreshing to see a man who could have easily wiped the floor with his lyrics say, I don't have to, you know?
That is interesting, isn't it? Because I took this interview the wrong direction. It's not about pointing out the areas of concern. Actually, this story is saying, look, music and art can be giving you an example of how to live a slightly better life.
That's free speech. Saying, sorry. I'm sorry, I choose not to fight back because I love you. It may look like a wimpy thing to do, but it's still free speech.
You know what? I love you, Paul. Sorry about earlier.
Very good morning to you. It's 9:30 on Friday, April the 26th. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Ben Leo, and Pip Thompson.
GB viewers, vote Labour. GB News' exclusive poll reveals that support for Labour has soared ahead of the Conservatives. Will you be joining the ranks in voting for Labour? Let us know.
GB News viewers say they trust Labour more with the cost of living, the NHS and housing, but can the same be said for defence? Just yesterday, Labour were being slammed for not keeping Britain safe. We'll be joined by an Air Vice Marshal on that very shortly.
Rwanda bill now law. The scheme's passed after months of deadlock, but Ireland says it's already feeling the brunt, with the country's Deputy Prime Minister saying they're receiving an influx of migrants.
And Prince William surprises students in the West Midlands during a school trip to support mental health. The Prince of Wales revealed his favourite joke along the way.
Knock knock.
Who's that?
Interrupting cow. No.
Was that a joke?
Yeah, apparently. Look,
OK,
I'm
you can all do better than the Prince of Wales. Come on, get your jokes in this morning.
It's Friday. I'm no comedian myself, so I'm not going to be judging anyone's jokes, trust me.
What else are we talking about? We're talking about Captain Tom Moore. His family are selling their home in Bedfordshire for over £2 million, and they've been accused of using his name to help sell the property. What do you think about that? The brochure talks about him.
Yeah.
There's pictures of his bust in the hallway.
Put in the context
of
everything that happened since his death, i.e. the pool saga, where the daughter built that pool in the back garden, had to rip it down.
Yeah, if you want a house with a spa complex, you won't find it.
Yeah, it's not with it. But let us know, gbnews.com/your say. But before all that, here's your news headlines.
Good morning from the GB Newsroom at 9:30. Your headlines. 2 men have been charged with immigration offences as part of an investigation into the deaths of 5 migrants, including a young girl who were trying to cross the English Channel. Yi En Both, who's 22 from South Sudan, and Tajdeen Abdulaziz Yuma, who's also 22 and from Sudan, were both charged with offences related to the deadly incident. A 19-year-old Sudanese man was bailed pending further inquiries. The 5 migrants were on one of a small number of packed boats that pushed off the beach at Wimereux in France on Tuesday morning. Scotland's First Minister is facing a leadership contest after his former allies